Chapter 4:16.
Brat, don't go too far. Hearing the miserable roar from the young man's mouth, the expressions on the two grey-robed old men's faces changed once again. Even though they were incomparably furious in their hearts, due to the fact that the young man was currently in Xiao Yan's hands, the two of them could only do nothing. At this moment, even the people in the hall who were quietly observing the situation could not help but cast gazes of admiration towards Xiao Yan. No one had expected that this seemingly young black-robed man was actually such a person that was not to be trifled with. His methods were so sharp that it was likely that even the three half-martial emperors present would find it difficult to accomplish such a feat at the very least. The three of them did not possess the ability to force back an 8-star half-martial emperor. Even though Xiao Yan's move earlier contained quite a bit of trickery, it did not affect the crowd's opinion of his ability. After all, regardless of what method Xiao Yan had used, as long as he was able to force back an 8-star half-martial emperor, it was already sufficient to prove how powerful he was.
Haha, too far? I haven't even said that I'm going to kill him. You think that I'm going too far? If you want me to go too far, I don't mind killing him right now. Xiao Yan merely smiled coldly at the grey-robed old man's cold words. He withdrew his extended hand, intending to ruthlessly clench it in front of the two grey-robed old men. Stop! We are people from the Sun family. If you dare to kill him, the Sun family will definitely not let you off. At that time, there will likely be no place for you in the entire western region. You better think carefully about whether you want to kill him or not. Seeing that Xiao Yan was actually really going to kill him, the expressions on the two grey-robed old men's faces instantly changed drastically. They hurriedly shouted at Xiao Yan.
Ha! However, when the grey-robed old man's words entered Xiao Yan's ears, the latter merely sneered. In his heart, he did not fear the Sun family that the grey-robed old man spoke of. Before coming here, Xiao Yan already had some understanding of this so-called Sun family. This Sun clan was one of the subsidiary factions of the Heavenly Sword Gate. At the same time, it was also one of the 4 great clans that were subsidiary to the Heavenly Sword Gate. The strength of this clan was so great that it even had a Do D-class expert overseeing it. With the Heavenly Sword Gate as its backing, this Sun clan could be considered a terrifying existence that could do as it pleased within the western region. However, although the Sun family was strong, they were not intimidating in front of Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan's heart did not care whether he had a grudge or not. As a subordinate force of the Heavenly Sword sect, the Sun family actually had the attitude of wanting to kill Xiao Yan. Even if he didn't become their enemy now, he would encounter them sooner or later. Since he would encounter them sooner or later, why should he care about this now? As for an elite Do D, the Sun clan might have a Do D, but one should not forget that there was Gu Yu, an old demon with a frightening strength, within Xiao Yan's body. Xiao Yan believed that as long as Gu Yu was around, even an elite Do D would not be able to kill him. Since you don't care about his life or death, you should not blame me. Xiao Yan laughed softly. Soon after, he extended his white hand and clenched it tightly. At the same time, the face of the young man, who was being controlled by the towering hand, became as white as a piece of paper.
It was so white that it was frightening. Xiao Yan laughed softly. Bright red fresh blood was squeezed out of the pores all over the young man's body.
Within a short couple of breaths, the young man had been dyed with blood.
A sharp, miserable cry resounded over the place like a wolf's howl.
However, in the face of Xiao Yan's tactics, the young man was unable to break free regardless of how hard he struggled. As for the two grey-robed elders, their faces were green as they looked at the young man, who was covered in fresh blood at this moment.
There was a struggling expression on their faces.
As 8-star half-martial emperors, they could be said to be existences that could move about unhindered in the outer region of the Shilin mountain range. However, even with that being the case, they were actually repeatedly defeated by a 4-star half-martial emperor brat. This caused them to feel incomparably humiliated and furious. However, on top of feeling furious, the two grey-robed elders also felt quite helpless in their hearts. If they wished to save the young man, they would have to throw away their faces and get lost from the clear sky pavilion to the streets outside, where they would be ridiculed by others. Given the dignity of these two elders, they were naturally unable to do such a thing. However, if they did not do so, only death would await the young man. Brat, if you let go of my young master now, the two of us dare to guarantee that we will let you leave. Otherwise, if you insist that we get lost, the two of us will definitely pull out your tendons and tear out your bones today. We will lock you forever in our Sun clan's underground prison and make you suffer a fate worse than death.
One of the gray-robed elders took a step forward. His eyes were sharp as he stared at Xiao Yan. His pair of gray eyes were filled with endless killing intent. Today, regardless of which path Xiao Yan chose, he must die here. Oh. Looks like the two of you do not plan to save your master. Since that is the case, don't blame me for being ruthless. Just as those cold words were emitted, Xiao Yan's clenched hand was suddenly raised. Soon after, under the horrified gazes of the two gray-robed elders, his hand was violently smashed onto the ground below. Bang! Following the intense explosion, a wave of dense dust swiftly swept in all directions under the cover of the airwave. The entire clear sky pavilion trembled intensely at this moment. The expressions of everyone inside changed drastically at this moment. One by one, they unleashed the Do Chi within their bodies. Their bodies turned around, and they quickly withdrew from the clear sky pavilion. The expressions of the two gray-robed elders involuntarily changed once again. They did not expect that the black-robed man in front of them would remain indifferent even after they had revealed their identities. This caused them to be furious in their hearts. At the same time, they also became increasingly worried about the condition of the young man. By the time the storm scattered, the originally magnificent clear sky pavilion had already been destroyed in front of everyone's eyes. It had turned into a pile of ruins. In the middle of the ruins was an empty space that was over 100 feet in diameter. Xiao Yan and the two gray-robed elders, as well as the young man who was still being controlled by the towering hand, were standing in that empty space. The black robe on Xiao Yan's body was still as new as before. His expression was calm. His dark black eyes were as calm as an old well, and there was some indifference seeping out from his expression. The eyes of the two gray-robed elders swiftly landed on the young man who was being controlled by the towering hand when they saw this scene. Only after seeing that the latter was fine did the two of them gently sigh in their hearts. The two elders exchanged glances with each other before immediately looking at Xiao Yan. One of the elders frowned and clenched his teeth violently. His lips and teeth clashed a couple of times in an unresigned manner. After which, his face was green as he spoke to Xiao Yan in a deep voice. "Brat, are you certain that you will return him alive after the two of us get lost from here? As long as the two of you can do it, I will definitely not go back on my word." Hearing this, Xiao Yan also replied to the two of them with a solemn expression. "Why should we believe you? Because you have no choice. Unless, you really want to see him die in my hands." After Xiao Yan's words came out of his mouth, the two elders immediately frowned and looked at each other. It was only after a long time that they clenched their teeth and spoke to Xiao Yan again. "All right, I hope you can keep your words. Otherwise, the two of us will definitely make you stay here forever today." Xiao Yan smiled and nodded. He immediately extended his left hand and made a pleased gesture to the two of them. The tone of his mouth was neither fast nor slow as he spoke. He said in an unhurried manner, "All right, then please, get lost." Chapter 417. Outside the ruined sky-penetrating pavilion, crowds of people were crowding around. Practically everyone in Mulberry Town was gathered here at this moment. They were dumbstruck as they looked at the scene before them. They had never imagined that the sky-penetrating pavilion, which was guarded by an 8-star half-martial emperor, would actually be destroyed to such an extent. Perhaps the strength of the person who did this was at least an 8-star half-martial emperor. Of course, this was only what the crowd was thinking in their hearts. However, when their gazes landed on the black-robed young man at the scene, the expressions on their faces couldn't help but be instantly stunned. They were even more suspicious in their hearts. Could it be that this black-robed young man before them was capable of destroying such a huge sky-penetrating pavilion? However, when the several half-martial emperors in the crowd probed the aura within Xiao Yan's body, Lin Pingxing's expression couldn't help but change once again. The black-robed young man before them was actually only a 4-star half-martial emperor. After knowing Xiao Yan's strength, the pedestrians on both sides of the street immediately burst into an uproar. No one could imagine that a 4-star half-martial emperor could actually cause two 8-star half-martial emperors to treat him so seriously. Exactly who was this black-robed young man before them? How could he be so terrifying? Seeing that more and more people had gathered around them, the complexions of the two gray-robed old men above the ruins had already turned ashen. In their hearts, they wished that they could crush Xiao Yan to death. Who would have thought that they, two grand 8-star half-martial emperors, would actually be threatened by a 4-star half-martial emperor today? If news of this were to spread, wouldn't they become an enormous joke? However, even though this was the case,
The two gray-robed old men still felt extremely helpless in their hearts. After all, their masters were in the hands of the other party. If it weren't for that, they wouldn't have been so afraid of this black-robed young man before them. At this moment, the two of them had already made a firm resolution in their hearts. As long as Xiao Yan put down the young man in his hands, the two of them would immediately attack and swiftly kill Xiao Yan with lightning speed. Since this black-robed youth before them had caused them to lose so much face, then no matter what, they would definitely make him pay the price in blood today. The expressions of the two gray-robed old men became increasingly ugly as their gazes swept all around them. They exchanged glances with each other. It was a long while later before the two of them finally clenched their teeth violently. They slowly lowered their bodies and squatted on the ruins in front of the confused gazes of everyone outside the battleground.
Both of their hands hugged their heads. Immediately, they began to roll like a ball in front of everyone's stunned gazes.
The two old men climbed up from the ground in a sorry state after rolling for a distance with great difficulty.
At this moment, their bodies were wrapped in a layer of mud. Their hair and beards were messy, causing the two of them to look like two beggars. They appeared to be in a sorry state. As for the crowd outside the arena, they were still in a daze. The two old men stood up and wiped off the dust on their faces. Their old faces were still ashen. The two of them ignored the gazes that were shot at them from the surroundings. Their cold gazes shot straight at Xiao Yan. The two of them took a deep breath before speaking to Xiao Yan in a deep voice.
"This time you should let him go."
Hearing this, Xiao Yan smiled and nodded. He smiled at the two of them and said, "The two of you are really loyal. For the sake of your master, you can even throw away your face. For this, I admire the two of you.
Cut the crap, let him go."
As Xiao Yan's voice fell, one of the two gray-robed old men couldn't help but shout at Xiao Yan in a stern voice. "Hee, the two of you can rest assured. I will do as I say. I will let him go now." Xiao Yan smiled faintly.
The corners of his mouth were lifted into a smile. A pair of eyes that were as calm as an ancient well stared at the two gray-robed old men. The hand that was controlling the towering hand was once again raised in front of the two old men's anxious gazes.
Immediately, Xiao Yan waved his hand gently.
With a thought, the towering hand that was agglomerated from spiritual strength scattered with a bang. The body of the young man, who was covered in blood, flew toward the two old men uncontrollably. Seeing the young man flying over, the expressions on the faces of the two old men instantly changed. The two of them moved at the same time and leaped forward to catch the young man. When the young man's body was caught by the hands of one of the gray-robed old men, the other old man's body did not stop. The Do Chi in his body suddenly surged out. With a wave of his hands, the frightening Do Chi swiftly agglomerated in his palms. His body that was charging forward suddenly shook and violently grabbed at Xiao Yan.
"Brat, die." "Humph, I had already expected that you would attack. Did you really think that I would give you the chance to injure me?" Seeing the gray-robed old man who leaped over to attack, Xiao Yan coldly laughed.
His body moved and in the blink of an eye, he had already rushed into the sky.
Carrying a lightning-like speed, he swiftly flew toward the depths of the Shilin mountain range.
Seeing Xiao Yan's sudden eruption of frightening speed, the expression on the gray-robed old man's face could not help but be slightly stunned. By the time he recovered, Xiao Yan had already disappeared at the end of his line of sight. At this moment, it was already too late for him to chase after Xiao Yan. Only at this moment did the surrounding crowd of onlookers notice Xiao Yan's frightening speed. It was hard to imagine that even an 8-star half-emperor was unable to catch up to him. Exactly who was this mysterious black-robed man? "Humph. Brat, just you wait. The next time we meet, I will definitely dismember your body into 10,000 pieces and grind your bones into dust." After cursing in a stern voice, the gray-robed old man fiercely waved his sleeve. He turned around and looked at the surrounding crowd of onlookers. Immediately, a furious expression appeared on his old face as he angrily shouted again. "What are you looking at? All of you scram. If you don't disappear from this old man's sight within 10 breaths, I will turn all of you into ashes." Once the old man's words left his mouth, the surrounding crowd of onlookers were immediately alarmed. One by one, they began to fly away as if they were fleeing for their lives. Xiao Yan dared to go against them. However, these people did not have the courage to do so. After all, he was an 8-star half-emperor. Once they were to fight, not a single person present would be a match for him. Seeing the surrounding crowd of onlookers rapidly leaving, The grey-robed old man casually killed several people before suppressing the fury in his heart. Only then did he turn around and return to the side of the young man.
At the same time, halfway up a majestic mountain peak, Xiao Yan slowly descended. He turned around and looked at the mulberry town that was already buried within the clouds below.
The corners of his mouth lifted into a ridiculing smile. Although that old man was an 8-star half-emperor, with Xiao Yan's current speed, even a 9-star half-emperor would find it incomparably difficult to catch up to him if he were to erupt with his full power. He was truly too naive to think that he could catch up to him. Withdrawing his gaze, Xiao Yan raised his head and looked at the mountain peak that reached the 9 heavens before him. Shock filled his heart. Although he was able to see the magnificence of this mountain range from afar, it was only when he approached it that he was able to truly sense the majesty of this mountain peak and its boundless aura. Hoo! Looking at the mountain peak in front of him, Xiao Yan involuntarily exhaled a long breath. For a period of time in the future, this place would be another training ground for him. He wondered just what kind of things he would encounter in this place. As this thought flashed through his mind, a blazing expression suddenly surged into Xiao Yan's eyes. Regardless of what he would encounter, it was better for him to enter first.
He also wanted to properly experience the wildest power of the Shilin mountain range. With a movement of his body, Xiao Yan stepped into the air. With a leap, he rapidly flew towards the summit of the mountain peak. Chapter 4:18. Half a month later, on a mountain peak in the Shilin mountain range. On the mountain peak, Xiao Yan stood in the air with his hands raised in front of his chest.
His hands quickly formed a seal, and a vast amount of spiritual energy surged out from between his eyebrows.
As Xiao Yan's hand seals changed, the spiritual energy quickly gathered between his palms. A moment later, an extremely oppressive and terrifying aura was emitted. A mysterious golden hand seal was emitting a dazzling golden light between Xiao Yan's palms. As spiritual energy poured into Xiao Yan's forehead, the hand seal became more and more solid. When the golden seal in Xiao Yan's palm completely solidified, the latter's face couldn't help but turn pale. Exhausting such a large amount of spiritual strength was quite a big burden for Xiao Yan. Ha! Soul-suppressing seal, go! Suddenly, Xiao Yan's mouth emitted an earth-shaking cry. Both of his hands were pushed forward with great force.
The golden seal in his hand also broke through the empty air and violently smashed toward the mountain below.
The golden flowing light was like a bolt of lightning as it quickly streaked across the sky. In the blink of an eye, it had already landed on the mountain peak. Boom! In the next moment, an earth-shattering explosion resounded through the sky. The mountain that was hundreds of meters tall began to tremble violently. Cracks that were several meters wide began to spread rapidly from the top of the mountain. They only gradually stopped halfway up the mountain. When the cracks stopped spreading, the entire mountain began to crumble. Large pieces of rubble fell from the sky like meteors.
The ground within 1,000 miles shook violently, and countless magical beasts fled in all directions like birds that were startled by the twang of a bow.
In the sky, Xiao Yan was pleasantly surprised when he saw this scene. The soul-suppressing seal was indeed a human-tier soul skill. Its power was definitely not something his Yellow Spring's divine fury could compare to. With the soul-suppressing seal in his hands and Xiao Yan's spiritual energy at the consolidation stage, Xiao Yan could be considered to have another trump card. Since entering the Shilin mountain range half a month ago, Xiao Yan had been heading west. As he hurried along, he didn't forget to practice the soul-suppressing seal that he found in Mu Han's storage ring. One of the benefits of a human-tier Do skill was that it was easy to practice. Compared to a heaven-tier Do skill, as long as one had a human-tier Do skill Jade Scroll in hand, one could easily practice it. As long as one practiced diligently, one could easily use it. In half a month's time, Xiao Yan's soul-suppressing seal had become much more familiar with it. However, it was difficult to control of Xiao Yan's of spiritual energy when he used it. Of his current spiritual energy. Of spiritual energies. Xiao. Was. Xiao Yan shook his head and tossed the giddy feeling out of his body. His body moved and he swiftly flew toward the mountain forest below. A moment later, Xiao Yan's figure appeared in a spacious open space. In the middle of the open space, there was a bonfire that had already been extinguished. Xiao Yan had already stayed here for 2 days. His purpose was to practice the soul-suppressing seal. Until today, the practice of the soul-suppressing seal had temporarily come to an end. Xiao Yan was prepared to have a good night's rest. He would continue his journey to the western wastelands tomorrow. Xiao Yan walked to the front of the extinguished bonfire and inhaled a deep breath of air. However, he did not sit down cross-legged to continue practicing.
Instead, he lay down on the grass in a carefree manner.
His hands supported the back of his head as he lifted his eyes and looked at the blue sky above. The tensed muscles all over his body gradually relaxed. The dou qi in his body returned to the vortex and was stored in the vortex space. His body, which had experienced many battles, had a rare moment of relaxation at this moment.
It has really been a long time since I have been so relaxed. Xiao Yan slowly shut his eyes as his mouth softly muttered.
At this moment, Xiao Yan had removed all of his usual defenses. In this situation, it was likely that even a Dou Huang would be able to easily approach Xiao Yan without being discovered. Suddenly, a light lingered over the surface of Xiao Yan's body. Gu Yu's body drifted out of his body and floated in the air. He looked at Xiao Yan. Gu Yu was originally planning to open his mouth to say something, but he discovered that Xiao Yan was already in a deep sleep when his eyes landed on him.
The words that had reached his mouth were swallowed back down.
Gu Yu's eyes flickered with a complicated expression. In the end, he helplessly sighed. He waved his hand and a faint energy curtain covered Xiao Yan's body like a layer of gauze. It gradually merged with the empty space and disappeared. Gu Yu turned his body after doing this. He rushed into the empty space and lifted his eyes to look at the northern sky.
At the same time, in the northern region of the continent,
this place was an endless sea.
There was an enormous island at a certain spot in the sea.
The island was so large that it was likely able to accommodate hundreds of thousands of people. The most eye-catching thing on this island was the enormous statue that stood proudly between the sky and the earth. At this moment, there was an old man with icy blue hair standing on the top of the statue. His eyes were focused to the southwest. Although the two of them were tens of thousands of kilometers apart, they appeared to be in front of each other. Their eyes met from a great distance and everything was understood without words. Suddenly, the old man's originally relaxed eyebrows were knit together. The expression on his face involuntarily changed. His lips parted slightly as though he wanted to say something, but in the end, it turned into a helpless sigh. The old man's eyes were complicated as he looked to the southwest.
It was a long while later before he withdrew his eyes.
He looked down and saw a group of buildings and ant-like people below. The old man's heart was filled with all sorts of complicated emotions. In the blink of an eye, it was already night time. The bright moon hung high in the sky like a sun in the night sky. It illuminated the mountain range below. One could even vaguely see the magical beasts swiftly moving through the forest. Xiao Yan had already woken up from his sleep in the empty space in the forest. This rare relaxation caused Xiao Yan's mental state to be extremely good at this moment. Even his overall condition was far better than usual. Xiao Yan sat cross-legged and trained for 4 hours. After he exited his training state, a thought passed through his mind and 3 illusory figures appeared in front of Xiao Yan. These 3 avatars were the avatars that Xiao Yan had formed using the 9 transformation body art. However, after splitting into 3, the strength of the 3 avatars was far inferior to when they had merged into one. Even now, they were merely 2-star band D. Xiao Yan involuntarily frowned slightly as he looked at the 3 avatars in front of him. Ever since he had obtained the 9 transformation body art, Xiao Yan had only formed these 3 avatars. However, their overall strength was completely incomparable to his actual body. This was clearly insufficient for Xiao Yan, who was going to face an elite Dou D in the future. Ugh. Looks like I will need to gather some fire affinity flame crystals in the future.
It is likely that only when the 9 avatars merge into one will I be able to truly possess a strength comparable to my actual body.
Otherwise, these avatars will ultimately only be a burden. Xiao Yan helplessly sighed. A thought passed through his mind and he ordered the 3 avatars to sit cross-legged. At the same time, the spiritual strength between his eyebrows swiftly surged out. Under Xiao Yan's control, the 3 avatars were formed. After the 3 avatars merged into one, their strength was not weak and was comparable to a 4-star band D. However, this was merely enough to deal with an ordinary band D. If they were to encounter a 9-star band D, they would be seen through at a glance, much less an elite Dou D. Therefore, if Xiao Yan wanted the avatars to truly be of help to him, he needed to gather the other 6 avatars. Only by doing so would he be able to merge the 9 avatars into one and unleash the true strength of the 9 transformation body art. At that time, Xiao Yan would truly possess a strength that would make him unrivaled under the Dou D class. Chapter 419. The vastness of the Shilin mountain range had exceeded Xiao Yan's expectations. Even with his speed, he was still walking on the outskirts of the Shilin mountain range after a week. Currently, it had been almost a month since Xiao Yan had entered the Shilin mountain range. With the speed of a half-emperor, he was unable to enter the depths of the Shilin mountain range even after flying for half a month. From this, it was not difficult to imagine just how vast the Shilin mountain range was. Xiao Yan was slowly walking through the forest at a certain spot within the Shilin mountain range. At the same time, a vast and frightening spiritual strength spread out in all directions from between his brows. It carefully probed the area covered by the spiritual strength. Xiao Yan wanted to use this method of trying his luck to see if he would be able to find the thing that he wanted somewhere in this forest. However, opportunities did not appear to come as Xiao Yan imagined. Even though Xiao Yan searched along the way, he unfortunately did not find anything. Xiao Yan, who was walking aimlessly in the forest, shook his head helplessly. He sighed softly and was about to withdraw the spiritual strength that he had spread out. However, at this moment, the expression on Xiao Yan's face changed slightly. Just a moment ago, he had sensed an extremely hot and wild aura. Xiao Yan would definitely not be mistaken about that kind of energy. It was the energy emitted by a fire-type energy crystal. And this was the thing that Xiao Yan was currently searching for with all his might. Phew! It really wasn't a waste of my painstaking search. Xiao Yan's eyes were filled with joy as he laughed loudly. Immediately, his body moved and he instantly used the sky extinction steps. A cool breeze blew past and Xiao Yan's body immediately turned into a gust of wind, swiftly flying towards the place where the aura had originated from. Bang! Following an intense bang sound, a magic beast with a huge body appeared somewhere in the mountain forest. It had sent a middle-aged man flying with a single claw. Its sharp claws tore apart the Dou Qi armor on the surface of the man's body, leaving behind a few scarlet claw marks on the man's body. The middle-aged man's body flew backwards uncontrollably like a deflated ball. After smashing and breaking dozens of towering trees, he finally collapsed to the ground with blood all over his body. He had already fallen into a seriously injured state. If he was not treated in time, it was likely that his life would be in danger. Uncle Gu. In the void, when a beautiful girl saw this scene, the expression on her pretty face was instantly replaced by fear. Her originally rosy little face quickly turned pale, and her pair of beautiful eyes were also lingering with sparkling tears. This Uncle Gu that the young girl had mentioned was currently the strongest person in their group. Seeing that even he was no match for this magical beast, it was not difficult to imagine what would happen to them. After the young girl's exclamation sounded, the other few people in the sky immediately turned their gazes towards the seriously injured middle-aged man below. Immediately, everyone's expressions could not help but change. Everyone's faces revealed a terrified expression. None of them were a match for this enormous beast in front of them. Roar! Humans, how dare you disturb this king's rest? Today, none of you should even think of leaving alive. The enormous magical beast, which was like a small mountain, roared in a low voice. Immediately, it raised its sharp claws once again and swung them violently. The space under its claws was easily torn apart. Frightening gales shot over like numerous sharp blades. The ear-piercing sonic boom was unbearable. The hearts of the few people in the sky were filled with fear. The weapons in their hands trembled uncontrollably. Shuayer! Run quickly! In the forest below, the seriously injured Uncle Gu desperately propped himself up and shouted hysterically at the young girl in the sky. He hoped that she could avoid the magical beast's scythe-like attack that was like the Grim Reaper's scythe. However, in the face of Uncle G's desperate roar, although the others hurriedly dodged, only the young girl was filled with fear. Her mind was blank and she was completely at a loss. Her delicate body trembled violently. She actually slowly curled up her body and wailed loudly in the sky. At this moment, even if those people in the sky wanted to save her, it was already too late. A terrifying gale had already arrived above the young girl's head. The moment of death had already arrived. None of the people present were able to save themselves from this situation of certain death. Shuayer! On the ground, the seriously injured Uncle Gu wanted to climb up in grief and soar into the sky again. However, he was already seriously injured at this moment. No matter how hard he tried, it was all in vain. At the same time,
The enormous beast claw in the sky carried a frightening aura that tore through the air as it violently clawed at the young girl. The next moment, when everyone was slowly lowering their heads while carrying a sorrowful heart and the middle-aged man on the ground was crying from the pain in his heart, a cool breeze suddenly struck the sky.
A cool breeze blew past.
At the same time, the young lady, who was curled up in the air and crying loudly, was lifted by a mysterious force uncontrollably. After which, when the beast claw landed, she had already appeared in the air 1,000 feet away.
Who is it? Come out.
Seeing that the prey under its claw had been rescued by someone, the enormous beast once again spat out the human language and furiously cried out in the direction of the young girl.
Cuckoo! You are at the very least a Band D-class magical beast. You actually tried to kill a couple of dozongs and dozoons. Your skin is really thick.
As the soft laughter was emitted, the gazes of everyone in the sky were instantly attracted. Their hearts finally sighed in relief when they saw that the young girl was fine. This was especially the case for the seriously injured middle-aged man. The despair in his eyes was greatly reduced when he saw that the young girl was fine. After which, everyone's faces involuntarily revealed a surprised expression when they saw the black-robed man's figure slowly appear from the empty space. They did not expect that the one who had saved Shui would actually be such a young-looking young man.
Humph! Who are you? You are actually meddling in other people's business.
Seeing Xiao Yan, the magical beast could tell at a glance that the latter's strength was extraordinary.
Clearly, he was also an elite Band D.
Hence, he did not dare to be as arrogant as he had been when speaking to the few people earlier.
Cuckoo! I am just a nameless person. It is just that I feel a little apologetic when I see a Band D like you bullying people who are weaker than you. Hence, I intervened. Xiao Yan's expression was calm as he spoke in an indifferent tone. Chapter 420. They trespassed into this king's territory and even disturbed this king's training. They deserve to die. While saying these words, the huge body of the magical beast swiftly twisted. Immediately, it transformed into a similarly black-robed young man with a bewitching appearance in front of everyone's eyes. The man placed his hands behind his back. There was a faint flickering light within his dark black pupils. His eyes met with Xiao Yan's from a distance. Oh! Hearing this, Xiao Yan involuntarily frowned. The world of magical beasts treated their territory extremely seriously. Once an outsider trespassed into their territory, the owner of the territory would mercilessly kill the outsider. This was not only to defend their territory, but also to prove their strength to the outside world. It was also because of this that under normal circumstances, almost no one would be willing to step into the territory of some high-rank magical beasts. At this moment, this group of people had accidentally entered the territory of this fellow in front of them, because the young lady called Shui, behind Xiao Yan, was running around randomly. At the same time, she had also implicated the others. If it were not for Xiao Yan's appearance today, this group of people would have already died under the claws of this magical beast. Cough cough. Sir, we didn't mean to invade your territory. It's just that we accidentally took the wrong path and ended up here. We're very sorry for offending you, but we hope that you can be magnanimous and let us leave. Uncle Ji's face was pale as he climbed up from the ground with great difficulty.
His entire body trembled as he cupped his hands together towards the bewitching man in the air and spoke in a humble tone.
Humph! Where do you think this king is? Is this a place where you can come and go as you please? But, haha, where it is possible to let people off, one should spare them. Why must you insist on not letting it go? It's just a failure to advance. At worst you can just stop cultivating. Moreover, if you continue to cause trouble, it won't do you any good. Just as Uncle Gu was about to open his mouth again, Xiao Yan laughed softly.
His eyes focused on the bewitching man opposite him with an indifferent expression.
With Xiao Yan's spiritual strength, he had already sensed this bewitching man when he first saw him. The dou qi in the man's body was fluctuating violently. With Xiao Yan's experience, he immediately knew the reason. This was the result of a failed advancement. However, the degree of energy fluctuation was much smaller than that of an ordinary magical beast. It was obvious that this fellow had failed to advance for quite some time. As for Uncle Gu and his group, it was just a coincidence that they came here and disturbed this guy from suppressing the injuries in his body. That was why he went on a rampage and started killing people. From the looks of it, he probably just wanted to vent his anger. If that wasn't the case, he wouldn't have killed anyone. Humph. Kid, if you insist on meddling in other people's business, Then don't even think about leaving here today. Go with them.
The moment the evil-looking black-robed man's voice sounded, both of his arms suddenly danced. Immediately, a wave of surging dough chi surged out from his body and agglomerated into a black-colored leopard in the air above his head.
Oh, Lei Bao? Not bad. Peak late stage 7-star half martial emperor. Unfortunately, you failed to advance. Otherwise, you'd be an 8-star half martial emperor. Xiao Yan nodded. A smile appeared on his face.
However, the expression on his face was still as unmoved as before.
Seeing that Xiao Yan was actually not moving at all, the evil-looking man was immediately enraged.
Through his probing aura, he discovered that the Xiao Yan before him was merely a 4-star half martial emperor. Yet, he actually dared to ignore him with such strength.
This caused him to be incomparably furious. Arrogant brat. You're merely a 4-star half martial emperor. Where did you get the courage to boast shamelessly before this king? You're truly courting death. Haha, you'd best not aggravate the injuries in your body. Otherwise, if your injuries are aggravated, I'm afraid that even your 7-star half martial emperor strength will not be able to preserve it. Seeing that Lei Bao was about to rush over, Xiao Yan lightly smiled.
With a ridiculing smile on his face, he looked at the latter and spoke with an unhurried tone.
Humph. There is no need for me to use my full strength to deal with you. Furthermore, it will not aggravate this king's injuries. Heh! Die for this king! After his explosive shout sounded, Lei Bao immediately waved his arms. Pitch-black dough chi rapidly condensed. Lei Bao's 2 hands immediately turned into sharp claws that tore through space. In the blink of an eye, he had already arrived before Xiao Yan. Those few people in the empty space, who had escaped death, turned their eyes to Xiao Yan at this moment. The originally joyous expression on their faces was once again withdrawn. Their hearts were filled with regret. The strength of this black-robed, young man in front of them was merely that of a 4-star bandit. With this strength, not only would he be unable to save them, but he would also end up throwing himself into danger. Senior, you should quickly leave. This guy's strength is much higher than yours. You are no match for him. It is not worth it for you to do this for a group of strangers like us. Seeing that Xiao Yan was actually standing in the sky without moving, Uncle Gu, who was below, thought that Xiao Yan had been intimidated by Lei Bao's frightening strength. At once, he hurriedly shouted loudly at Xiao Yan, hoping that he could save Xiao Yan. When Xiao Yan heard Uncle Ji's words, he turned his head toward the latter and revealed a smile. The instant he turned his head back, his feet moved slightly as he instantly used the sky extinction steps. Chi! The sharp wind from the claw mercilessly tore Xiao Yan apart. Unfortunately, not even a trace of fresh blood was spilled. Oh! An afterimage. Lei Bao's heart was slightly startled. Before this, he had actually not discovered the gradually dissipating afterimage in front of him. One must know that the instant his sharp claws landed, Xiao Yan had only just turned his head back. How is this possible? This brat, how exactly did he do it? Since you've already made your move, it's my turn now. An indifferent voice drifted out, causing the expression on Lei Bao's face to change drastically. His gaze swept around, but he did not see even half a shadow of Xiao Yan. Swoosh! A sharp sound of breaking wind rang out, causing Lei Bao to hurriedly turn his body. That sound came from right in front of him. The space twisted, and Xiao Yan's figure once again appeared in the sky. With a heavy ruler in his hand, he slammed it down on Lei Bao's head. Humph! You dare to face this king head-on. You are really courting death. Seeing that Xiao Yan had actually faced him head-on, Lei Bao immediately let out a cold laugh. His body shook, and in a flash, he returned to his original body. His huge body was like a small mountain that covered the sky. In front of him, Xiao Yan's figure was like a mouse, as if he could easily trample him to death as long as his foot landed. Wind-tearing claw. Flame-devouring tsunami. 2 explosive roars rang out at the same time. In the sky, a huge beast claw descended from the sky, fiercely colliding with a giant ruler that was soaring into the sky below. Boom! Immediately, an earth-shaking explosion resounded in the sky. At this moment, the sky and earth trembled violently. A terrifying energy storm followed one after another, rapidly sweeping across the sky above. In the sky, the girl had already woken up. Under the protection of her companions,
She had already hidden outside the battle circle.
The girl's beautiful eyes revealed shock as she looked at Xiao Yan in the field.
Her small mouth could not help but slightly open, and her jade-like hands were clenched together in worry.
Who did he hit? In the girl's mind, the moment when Xiao Yan hugged her to avoid Lei Bao's killing move appeared once again.
His face, which could not be considered handsome, was filled with a mature charm that ordinary men did not have. A pair of pitch-black eyes were as quiet as a deep pool of water. Ever since the girl had seen Xiao Yan for the first time, his face had been deeply engraved in the depths of her mind.
She would probably never forget it for the rest of her life.
Xiao Yan had saved her when she was at her most frightened and helpless.
This instantly tugged at the heartstrings in the girl's heart. At this moment, the girl's mind was filled with the hope that the black-robed man would not lose. She hoped that she would be able to look at him a few more times. In the sky, Lei Bao's heart was filled with shock as he looked at Xiao Yan, who was still calm under his claw. He did not expect that a human strength would not be inferior to a magical beast like him.
It was hard to imagine that the black-robed young man in front of him had already cultivated his physical body to a terrifying level.
Good boy. I really did not expect that your strength would be so great despite your mediocre strength. However, just relying on strength alone will not be enough to defeat this king. As soon as his voice fell, Lei Bao's beast claw suddenly tightened. His dou qi surged wildly as a terrifying force poured down from his claw. A sharp gust of wind shot out in all directions, forcibly forcing Xiao Yan's attack back. Haha, thank you for the information. Since you think my strength is not enough, why don't you try this move? Ha! Diamond glazed body. As soon as his voice fell, Xiao Yan's body instantly transformed into a towering diamond god. He put away the heavy ruler in his hand into his storage ring and grabbed Lei Bao's beast claw with his left hand. Under Lei Bao's shocked gaze, he forcefully pulled Lei Bao in front of him. At the same time, Xiao Yan's right hand clenched into a fist. As Lei Bao struggled with all his might, his fist landed heavily on Lei Bao's head. Bang! A loud bang resounded. Lei Bao's body was uncontrollably buried deep into the mountain range below. The mountain collapsed and buried Lei Bao's entire body. Lei Bao's roar of pain resounded. Outside the battlefield, everyone was looking at Xiao Yan, who had transformed into a diamond giant, in shock. Everyone could not help but open their mouths wide. Their hearts were filled with shock. It was hard to imagine that the person who was smashed into the mountain range by Xiao Yan just now was really a 7-star half-martial emperor. Chapter 421. In the sky, Xiao Yan, who had transformed into a Vajra god, was standing in the air. Not far in front of him was an enormous black lightning leopard. It was glaring angrily at Xiao Yan. Its pair of enormous beast eyes had turned scarlet red, and it was occasionally letting out low roars. Outside the battlefield, Uncle Gu and the others were silently looking at the two people on the battlefield. Especially Shui her pair of bright eyes were flickering with radiance. Her eyes were tightly fixed on Xiao Yan, and extraordinary splendor flickered in her eyes. Roar! You hid your strength? Lei Bao roared. From his tone, it was not difficult to hear the graveness in his heart. The strength Xiao Yan had displayed was far more powerful than what he had seen. Just from the collision earlier, Lei Bao was able to tell that Xiao Yan's true strength was likely not something he could compare to. Furthermore, with his current state, it was simply impossible for him to be a match for Xiao Yan. In Lei Bao's opinion, since this black-robed human was able to easily defeat him, then his true strength was likely already that of an 8-star half-martial emperor. Of course, this was only Lei Bao's opinion. After all, under normal circumstances, to be able to easily defeat a 7-star half-martial emperor, one had to be at least an 8-star half-martial emperor. Merely, if he were to know that Xiao Yan's true strength was only that of a 5-star half-martial emperor, then what would he think? Heh! Xiao Yan merely smiled faintly at Lei Bao's words, and declined to comment. Seeing Xiao Yan's appearance, Lei Bao was even more certain in his heart. At that moment, a chill involuntarily rose in his heart. Then, he thought of the injuries in his body. If this were to continue, then something might really happen. At that time, the result would be unfavorable to him. Humph! Give him face, you all can leave. If you dare to trespass into this king's territory again, then even with his protection, this king will definitely kill all of you. Lei Bao let out a low roar. His figure changed and turned into a human again. At a glance,
There was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth.
It was obvious that he had been injured by Xiao Yan in the collision just now. As his voice sounded, Lei Bao's eyes contained resentment as he stared viciously at Xiao Yan. His face was filled with hatred as he clenched his teeth. He turned around and walked toward his own mansion. Wait. Lei Bao's indifferent voice rang out once more. Lei Bao, who had just turned around, had a gloomy expression on his face. He turned around and looked at Xiao Yan once more with a gloomy expression. His fists slowly clenched under his sleeves, and his sinister voice seemed to be fiercely squeezed out from between his teeth. Sir, is there anything else? Haha, it's nothing much. I just want to ask something from you. Xiao Yan laughed softly.
The expression on his face made him appear harmless. However, only those who knew him would know that it was this smiling black-robed young man who had caused a 9-star half-emperor to suffer quite a bit.
Hearing this, Lei Bao narrowed his eyes and stared at Xiao Yan. The expression in his eyes changed continuously.
It was a long while later before he opened his mouth again and asked in a deep voice.
May I know what the thing that you are talking about is? Earlier, I had detected a fire-type energy fluctuation in this place. Since your body is of the lightning type, if I am not wrong, there should be a fire-type flame crystal in your cave dwelling.
Lei Bao narrowed his eyes and pondered quickly in his heart. It was a long while later before he sneered at Xiao Yan and said in a cold voice, "So what if it is?
So what if it is? Why should I give it to you?" Haha, that's right. Your main body is of the lightning attribute and it clashes with the fire attribute energy. The flame crystal is useless in your hands and is of little value. Therefore, I would like to borrow it for my use. The smile on Xiao Yan's face did not change because of Lei Bao's words.
After his words sounded, a fierce wind suddenly blew in the sky.
An extremely frightening aura covered the entire area. You want to snatch it? I only want to have a good talk with you. The expression on Xiao Yan's face did not change.
Instead, the solemnness in Lei Bao's heart could not be any greater.
No one could calmly face a person whose strength they did not know. Moreover, Lei Bao was currently injured.
Once Xiao Yan really attacked him, the result was something that one did not need to think to know.
How do you want to talk? Lei Bao spat out a mouthful of saliva with great difficulty.
His pale face had a solemn expression.
An unknown enemy was often the most frightening. 2D tier medicinal pills. The faint voice was transmitted over, but it caused the expression on Lei Bao's face to instantly become dull.
He wondered in his heart whether he had heard wrongly. This black-robed young man in front of him did not intend to use a forceful method to snatch it from his hands.
Instead, he wanted to use a medicinal pill to exchange for the flame crystal in his hands. At this moment, even the people outside the battlefield couldn't help but be slightly stunned. They were also momentarily stunned by Xiao Yan's words. They did not expect that such a powerful black-robed man would actually not use violent methods to snatch the flame crystal. This caused them to feel doubtful in their hearts. At the same time, they also involuntarily felt respect for Xiao Yan.
Even when facing a magical beast, he was still able to give the other party the basic respect of a practitioner. Compared to a portion of the people, this was already considered quite benevolent.
You really want to use medicinal pills to exchange with me? Even at this moment, Lei Bao's heart still did not dare to believe. After being stunned for a long while, he could not help but ask Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan smiled, but he did not reply. Instead, he casually took out 2D tier medicinal pills from it. Upon seeing this scene, Lei Bao's face immediately revealed a joyous expression. He did not expect that the useless items he had coincidentally obtained would actually be able to be exchanged for D-tier medicinal pills. The thing that caused Lei Bao to feel even more astonished was that the black-robed man in front of him was clearly stronger than him. However, he was willing to use medicinal pills to exchange for the flame crystal that was completely useless to him. This really caused one to feel extremely astonished. Of course, the reason why Xiao Yan would do this was because he was afraid that Lei Bao would destroy the flame crystal in a moment of desperation. That would be a pity for Xiao Yan. On the other hand, Xiao Yan could not be bothered to stir up trouble. In order to avoid these unnecessary troubles, he could only make some sacrifices. However, if he could use D-tier medicinal pills to exchange for the flame crystal, it would be worth it for the current Xiao Yan. Humph. This flame crystal is something that I have spent quite a lot of effort to obtain. For it, I nearly lost my life. Now you want to use 2D tier medicinal pills to easily take it away. Humph. Aren't you thinking too simply? However, just as everyone thought that this matter was about to end, Lei Bao's words caused the expressions on everyone's faces to become slightly sluggish. They did not expect that Lei Bao would actually have some guts at this moment. He wanted to use the flame crystal to obtain more benefits from Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan frowned slightly and revealed a displeased expression on his face. He did not expect that this fellow would actually dare to take advantage of him. He secretly laughed coldly in his heart. Xiao Yan had seen this kind of joke many years ago. Now that it was placed in front of him, it could only make him laugh coldly. Swoosh! Following a wave of rushing wind sound, the huge black ruler once again appeared in Xiao Yan's hand. 2D tier medicinal pills in exchange for your flame crystal. You have already profited greatly. If you are still unwilling, you can choose to fight with me again. If you win, I will give you 5D tier medicinal pills. If you lose, I will skin you until not even your bones are left. Hearing this, the corner of Lei Bao's eyes involuntarily twitched. His throat rolled slightly as he opened his mouth to speak. However, in the next moment, Xiao Yan's indifferent voice once again sounded out. Don't think of using the method of destroying the flame crystal to threaten me. If you really do that, it is fine. I will also kill you. At the very most, I will go and find more flame crystals. After his words sounded out, the huge ruler in Xiao Yan's hand was lifted. The sharp rushing wind sound was like a whistle that resounded through the sky. At the same time, the expression on Lei Bao's face changed drastically. As his body retreated, he flipped his palm and a crimson crystal appeared in his hand. Without any hesitation, he threw it viciously at Xiao Yan. Chapter 422. In the sky, Xiao Yan revealed a faint smile as he watched Lei Bao leave swiftly. He lifted his hand and looked at the scarlet-red flame crystal in his palm. His eyes involuntarily revealed a satisfied expression. Xiao Yan casually placed it into his storage ring and turned around, intending to continue flying deeper into the Shilin mountain range. Elder! Just as Xiao Yan turned around, a group of people swiftly flew over from a short distance away. It was Uncle Ji's group. Oh, is anything the matter? Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows slightly and asked the few people who flew over. Haha, Senior, you misunderstand. How would we dare to trouble Senior? We just want to thank Senior for saving our lives. Today, if it wasn't for Senior's timely rescue, I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to keep our lives. Everyone was finally able to clearly see Xiao Yan's appearance when they arrived in front of him. Everyone paused a couple of dozen feet from Xiao Yan. They bowed and cupped their hands to Xiao Yan to express their gratitude. Only Xue Er, whose hands were supporting Uncle Gu, revealed a redness on her pretty face. Her pretty eyes were startled as they stared at Xiao Yan. An unusual glint flowed within them, but she did not make the slightest move. When Uncle Gu saw this, the expression on his pale face could not help but change slightly. He knew this girl very well. At this moment, he had a panoramic view of the expression on Xue Er's pretty face. Seeing this scene, Uncle Gu could only sigh helplessly in his heart. He carefully glanced at Xiao Yan. When he realized that the latter did not mind, he hurriedly called out softly twice. Only then did Xue Er wake up from her absent-mindedness. The moment Xue Er regained her senses, the blush on her pretty face was as though she was drunk. It caused one to unconsciously feel tender affection for her. When she saw Xiao Yan looking over, Xue Er hurriedly lowered her head and spoke to Xiao Yan in a delicate and respectful tone. Junior Xue Er, thanks Senior for saving my life. As she spoke, Xue Er did not forget to secretly glance at Xiao Yan. This scene was naturally seen by Xiao Yan. The thought in her eyes was also understood by Xiao Yan at a glance. Immediately, Xiao Yan could not help but blush. He thought to himself, I only saved someone out of kindness occasionally. I can't possibly save someone's feelings. Sigh. Charisma is really a terrifying thing. Looks like I have to consider saving people in the future. The corner of Xiao Yan's mouth curled as he softly muttered. Elder, what's wrong? Do you have something for us to do? If there is, please feel free to tell us. We will do our best to help you. Hearing Xiao Yan's muttering, Uncle Ji's pale face immediately became spirited. He raised his head and looked at Xiao Yan as he asked respectfully. No, it's nothing. Since there's nothing else now, You should quickly leave this place. With your team's strength, you can't stay here any longer. It's better to go to the outskirts of the Shilin mountain range. Hearing Uncle Ji's words, Xiao Yan awkwardly withdrew his thoughts. His old face slowly recovered its normal color as he spoke to the few people in front of him. With a turn of his body, he prepared to leave. Seeing Xiao Yan turn around and leave without looking back, the expression on Shui Er's pretty face changed slightly. Her red lips parted slightly, but she did not say anything. Only when Xiao Yan flew 1,000 feet away did Shui Er muster the courage to ask Xiao Yan in a loud voice. Elder has saved Shui Er. Can you leave your name behind? Xiao Yan, who was flying, paused slightly. He raised his eyes and looked at the continuous mountain range in the distance. The hot sun scattered down like golden sand, causing Xiao Yan to involuntarily narrow his eyes. Chi! Suddenly Xiao Yan waved his large hand. The large black ruler once again appeared in Xiao Yan's hand. His hand twisted the ruler's hilt and carried the heavy ruler on his back. At the same time, his clear voice resounded over the sky like thunder. Xiao Yan! Xiao Yan's feet moved after his voice sounded. The sky extinction step was instantly unleashed. Following a breeze that blew over the sky, Xiao Yan's figure had already disappeared from the sky. Xiao Yan! Shui Er softly muttered. Uncle Ge by her side and everyone behind her immediately had a change in expression the moment they heard Xiao Yan's name. Xiao Yan. He is Xiao Yan. The Xiao Yan that the 4 large sects have jointly agreed to capture. It is unexpected that he has actually run to this place. Looking at the direction he is heading, he should be heading to the deep regions of the Shilin mountain range. Only that place is a place that even the 4 large sects have difficulty reaching. Uncle Ji's face was pale as he exhaled a deep breath. Immediately, he removed Shui Er's hand that was supporting him. He turned around, looked at everyone behind him with a solemn gaze, and spoke in a deep voice. Brothers, I hope that everyone will forget about today's matter after we leave this place. Just treat it as though you have never seen him. Everyone should understand what I mean. Everyone immediately responded and nodded. Uncle Ge also nodded solemnly when he saw this. He immediately glanced at Shui Er, who was staring blankly in the direction that Xiao Yan had left. He helplessly sighed, grabbed Shui Er's wrist, and led everyone to swiftly withdraw from the Shilin mountain range. In the blink of an eye, it was already night time. Another day quietly flowed by during the boring journey. Xiao Yan, who was flying, once again landed on the top of a mountain as he looked at the night sky that had completely turned dark. He sat cross-legged and began to train. A long while later, Xiao Yan once again opened his eyes. It was possible to see a brilliant fire glow flashing across his eyes. Xiao Yan's aura had once again returned to its peak. With a flip of his hand, a fiery red flame crystal suddenly stood in Xiao Yan's palm. This was the piece that he had obtained from Lei Bao during the day. Of course, in order to obtain this flame crystal, Xiao Yan had no choice but to give up 2 Emperor-tier medicinal pills. However, this was worth it for Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan deeply inhaled a breath of air. He placed the flame crystal between his hands and shut his eyes. Vast and frightening spiritual strength suddenly poured out from between his eyebrows at this moment, and began to engrave the flame crystal in his hand. With the experience from the previous 3 times and the addition of Xiao Yan's current spiritual strength, the engraving process was much faster compared to the previous few times. Even the step of forming an avatar was completed by Xiao Yan in one go this time around. Within a couple of hours, another avatar appeared in front of Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan nodded slightly as he looked at the somewhat illusionary avatar in front of him. Although the strength of this avatar was only that of a 9-star Dosheng, it was much stronger than the previous 3 avatars that had just been formed. Perhaps this was due to the increase in Xiao Yan's strength. However, regardless of how one put it, he had finally formed another avatar. Hence, as long as he was able to find 2 more flame crystals, the strength of this avatar would once again rise. With 3 merged into one, Xiao Yan would once again possess an avatar whose strength was not inferior to that of a Bandi. This was quite a great help to Xiao Yan. After all, once the avatar self-destructed, its might was something that even an elite Bandi would not be able to easily ignore. If the strength of this avatar was to increase in the future, it was likely that even a genuine elite Do Di would be afraid of it. Xiao Yan softly exhaled with anticipation in his heart. He sat cross-legged and once again entered his training mode. However,
Xiao Yan had just shut his eyes when a powerful suction force was suddenly emitted from Xiao Yan's body. Threads of natural energy visible to the naked eye swiftly gathered toward Xiao Yan, causing the expression on Xiao Yan's face to change.
Chapter 423.
What's going on?
Sensing the abnormality in his body, Xiao Yan's face was immediately startled. He hurriedly used his mind to inspect his body but discovered that there was no change to his vortex. The source of the suction force was also not his body.
Xiao Yan frowned.
Since the suction force did not come from him, where did it come from?
Moreover, according to this situation, it was clearly a sign of a breakthrough.
Puff! Suddenly, the expression of Xiao Yan, who was looking inside his mind, changed abruptly.
In the middle of his vortex, a pink flame suddenly rushed out of Xiao Yan's physical body and turned into a human figure in the air.
It was really Hua Yi. Hua Yi had been sleeping in Xiao Yan's body for several years.
Now that he had woken up again, it was finally time for him to break through to the half-emperor realm.
After coming back to his senses, Xiao Yan suddenly raised his head and looked at Hua Yi with a happy face.
He laughed and said,
"Ha ha ha ha, Hua Yi, you're finally going to break through? That's great." Hearing this, Hua Yi slowly lowered his eyes and looked at Xiao Yan. However, the moment the two looked at each other, Xiao Yan could not help but frown slightly. In that moment, he saw an indifferent look in Hua Yi's eyes.
Hua Yi.
Purifying demonic lotus flame.
Return. Xiao Yan's muttering voice that was filled with doubt had just been emitted when Hua Yi in the sky suddenly let out a loud cry. He waved his large hand and Xiao Yan's body below began to tremble intensely.
Immediately following this, a cluster of pink-colored heavenly flame was forcefully separated from the vortex within Xiao Yan's body. It flew out of Xiao Yan's body and instantly returned to Hua Yi's body. Xiao Yan immediately felt a sharp pain in his head when his connection with the purifying demonic lotus flame was severed. However, just as he was about to struggle, Xiao Yan received a heavy blow from the back of his neck. In the next moment, Xiao Yan's vision darkened and he fainted. The moment Xiao Yan collapsed, Guyu appeared behind Xiao Yan and supported him. Then, he slowly laid Xiao Yan down. Only then did he get up and look at Hua Yi in the sky. "You're finally going to break through. Does that mean it's time for you to leave?"
"The time has come."
"Naturally, it is time for me to leave." Hua Yi's tone was indifferent.
No emotion could be seen on his face as he looked at Guyu, who was standing quietly beside Xiao Yan.
"Humph, as expected, when that fellow broke through, the second thing this old man thought of was you."
"I didn't expect it to be true."
Guyu softly snorted upon hearing this. The corner of his mouth was lifted into an arc. Clearly, he was quite satisfied with his own judgment.
Hua Yi was indifferent to this. His indifferent eyes paused on Xiao Yan before he spoke to Guyu. "I will leave him to you."
"Ha, don't. You should be aware that this old man will not be able to last for long.
Originally, I planned to delay for a little longer. However, since you are about to leave, there is no point in delaying any longer. I will tell him once you leave." Guyu smiled.
His old eyes involuntarily revealed a complicated expression.
"No matter what, I have to thank you for this journey. If it was not for you, it is likely that he would not have been able to reach this stage." The expression on Hua Yi's indifferent face finally changed a little.
The tone of his mouth had also become a lot calmer.
"Haha, what is there to thank me for? This old man is merely doing his duty.
You, on the other hand, are about to break through, yet you still reveal such an icy appearance.
This is not the same as before."
Rumble!
Thunderclouds suddenly churned in the sky after Guyu's words sounded. They covered the entire sky. Immediately, the entire place became dark.
It was as though night had arrived.
Many frightening thunderbolts descended from the sky as the thunderclouds churned, causing the entire world to tremble. It was likely that even a 9-star ban emperor would not be able to survive for an instant under this frightening thunderbolt. However, this was the strength that Hua Yi had to endure when he broke through.
"Ha!
Come, let this venerable one see just how strong you are."
Rumble!
As Hua Yi's sneer fell, the rolling thunderclouds in the sky suddenly roared with angry thunder. Then, the world was shrouded by a dazzling silver light. Then, a terrifying thunderbolt, like a horned dragon, suddenly descended from the thunderclouds and fiercely blasted towards Hua Yi below.
"Humph!" Although Hua Yi's tone was unyielding, He did not dare to be careless in the face of this thunderbolt, given his current strength.
His body dodged left and right while his hands swiftly formed a seal. The moment the thunderbolt struck, the seal in Hua Yi's hand was completed. His palm ruthlessly struck the thunderbolt. Bang! Bang! Bang!
Between the heavens and the earth, thunder continued to rumble as the rumbling shook the heavens.
The entire world was trembling, as if it was afraid of the power of the world. Hua Yi, who was in the sky, had an increasingly fanatical expression.
Not only was he not defeated by the countless bombardments of the lightning, but his strength had become even more tyrannical. In the blink of an eye, the repeated attacks had already continued for 3 days.
Shatter! An earth-shaking cry sounded. Hua Yi once again threw a ruthless punch at the thunderbolt in the sky. The thunderbolt shattered when the punch was thrown.
Even at this moment, the words that had been spat out from Hua Yi's mouth still reverberated in the sky.
After the lightning was broken, Hua Yi's feet suddenly stomped on the empty air. As the thunderclouds churned, he charged into them.
After a couple of rumbling sounds were emitted, the thunderclouds in the sky that had churned for 3 days and 3 nights finally began to gradually scatter.
Buzz, buzz, buzz. However, the scattering of the thundercloud did not mean that everything was over. Instead, an even more frightening aura quietly covered the sky when the thundercloud scattered. Is it finally your turn? Humph! This venerable self should have come to this world a long time ago. Unexpectedly, it has been delayed until now. Hua Yi's expression was indifferent as he swept his eyes over Gu Yu's familiar face. A disgust rose in his heart. He let out a cold snort. His expression had once again become grave. Buzz, buzz, buzz. As a buzzing sound of unknown origin resounded in the sky, the originally calm and flawless azure sky actually gradually became distorted at this moment. Vaguely, a strange barrier appeared at the top of the sky. At the same time, the energy in the sky gathered at this moment.
A vast and mighty energy aura was slowly transmitted from the sky above Hua Yi's head.
Ha 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 ha! Come! Today, this venerable self shall see just what is so great about this world. Hua Yi's wild and unrestrained laughter sounded. His feet suddenly stepped on empty air, and the space below instantly collapsed. Hua Yi charged into the sky and headed to the ceiling. Middle region. A middle-aged man wearing a brocade robe stood in a certain fairy-like bamboo forest. His originally calm expression suddenly changed at this moment. His solemn eyes immediately looked to the west. In another hidden place, a pair of scarlet bloodthirsty eyes were also looking towards the west like the former. Only after a long time did they slowly close. Sky boundary. It's the western region. Could it be that it is that fellow from last time? The middle-aged man in the bamboo forest frowned. There was some worry between his brows. Ugh! The sky of this continent is about to change. Xiao Chen sighed helplessly.
His long and drawn-out sigh was filled with a sense of desolation.
It echoed endlessly in this spacious and empty bamboo forest. Chapter 424. Ugh!
The large amount of information that suddenly swarmed into Xiao Yan's mind caused the expression on the face of the dazed Xiao Yan to abruptly change.
An intense pain was immediately and swiftly transmitted from his mind. Xiao Yan's expression also subsequently turned pale.
It was a long while later before Xiao Yan gradually sorted out the large amount of information in his mind.
His pale face also gradually recovered. When Xiao Yan's mind looked within his body, the first thing that Xiao Yan saw in his mind were 3 large, flickering golden words. Ice Spirit Pill. This piece of information was just like a scroll of medicinal pill formulas. Xiao Yan's heart stilled.
He suddenly raised his head and looked at Gu Yu in front of him.
His tone was uncertain as he asked, "Old Gu, this is Ice Spirit Pill. This is for you to use to swallow the heavenly flame. Don't forget that with your current strength, how can it be so easy for you to swallow my actual body? Without the aid of this medicinal pill, it is likely that you will be instantly turned into ashes when the heavenly flame enters your body with your current strength." Gu Yu wore a mocking expression as he looked at Xiao Yan and softly laughed when he saw the surprised expression on Xiao Yan's face. Xiao Yan's expression was slightly startled when he heard this. Only then did he recall that he was currently in the Yuanwu continent. The heavenly flame here was many times stronger than the Doqi continent. It was not something that he could randomly swallow. Only a medicinal pill could increase Xiao Yan's chances of swallowing a heavenly flame. When he thought until this point, Xiao Yan involuntarily recalled the scene when he had swallowed the green lotus core flame,
for the first time. At that time, it seemed that he had relied on the ground spirit pill that Yao Lao had refined in order to save Xiao Yan from a great deal of pain when he swallowed the heavenly flame. At the same time, it had also helped Xiao Yan increase his chances of swallowing the heavenly flame. Now, a scene that was incomparably similar to back then had once again appeared in front of Xiao Yan.
Xiao Yan withdrew his gaze.
He slowly shut his eyes and carefully savored the information that he had just obtained.
Ice Spirit Pill. A Tier 3 medicinal pill. It was a Tier 3 middle-grade medicinal pill.
The difficulty of refining it was considered quite difficult even among all the Tier 3 medicinal pills. Of course, it was precisely because it was difficult to refine that its true value was revealed. After all, the Ice Spirit Pill was an existence that could contend with a heavenly flame.
Xiao Yan's heart was involuntarily shocked when he thought of a Tier 3 medicinal pill being able to contend with and even suppress a heavenly flame.
TSK. It is really unexpected that this Ice Spirit Pill is able to suppress the bone-chilling flame.
Xiao Yan once again a moment later as he clicked his tongue and exclaimed.
TCH. Don't place all your hopes on this Ice Spirit Pill. Although this pill is able to suppress this old man's body, what it relies on is not the power of the pill itself, but the ice spirit chilling liquid within. While Xiao Yan was exclaiming in surprise, Guyu mentioned the most important component of the Ice Spirit Pill. Yes, it was the Ice Spirit Chilling Liquid. Speaking of the Ice Spirit Chilling Liquid, it was indeed an extremely rare treasure on the continent. Its preciousness was not inferior to the meteorite mysterious iron. Moreover, it was a necessary ingredient to refine many high-tier medicinal pills. Even many Tier 8 medicinal pills could not lack the Ice Spirit Chilling Liquid as the main ingredient. Hence, every time the Ice Spirit Chilling Liquid was discovered on the continent, it would cause a bloodbath. It was a priceless item in the auction house. Of course, this was only because of the preciousness of the Ice Spirit Chilling Liquid. As for its use, it was the nemesis of all flames. The Ice Spirit Chilling Liquid originated from the Ice Spirit Chilling Spring. The Ice Spirit Chilling Spring possessed an extremely frightening cold power. Wherever it was, the entire world would turn into hell. No living being could enter within a radius of 10,000 miles and no beasts could survive. Even a demonic beast at the level of a half-emperor would find it difficult to get close. If a heavenly flame possessed the most terrifyingly high temperature in the world, then the Ice Spirit Chilling Spring possessed the coldest temperature in the world. Under such a terrifyingly low temperature, even empty space would be frozen and collapse. Hence, when a heavenly flame and the Ice Spirit Chilling Liquid collided, the two extremely opposite temperature differences would cause the strength of the two to reduce each other. In the end, they would reach a state of equilibrium. This was the effect of the Ice Spirit Pill. Of course, the bone-chilling flame was famous for its freezing effect. However, this point was overlooked by Guyu. Xiao Yan, who possessed the protection of the heavenly flame, was able to completely ignore the freezing effect of the bone-chilling flame. Hence, as long as he could suppress the wild and violent temperature of the bone-chilling flame, the rest would depend on Xiao Yan's luck. After Xiao Yan finished reading the entire scroll of the medicinal formula, his mouth involuntarily let out an intense cough. The expression on his face had also become ugly following this. Other than the Ice Spirit Chilling Liquid that Guyu had mentioned, Xiao Yan could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood when he saw the other pill ingredients in the entire pill formula. There were over 100 kinds of ingredients for the Ice Spirit Pill. Although he was able to gather over half of them, the other 4 ingredients among them caused Xiao Yan to want to cry, but have no tears. Other than the Icy Spirit Cold Liquid, the other 4 types were also extremely precious medicinal ingredients for refining pills. Xiao Yan believed that with his current wealth, he would only be able to barely gather 3 of them even if he were to go bankrupt. As for the remaining 1, including the Icy Spirit Cold Liquid, Xiao Yan could only look at it and sigh.
Ugh! Xiao Yan helplessly laughed bitterly.
His eyebrows involuntarily furrowed together.
He did not expect that he had unknowingly become destitute. After using 2 Emperor-grade medicinal pills to exchange for the flame crystal, Xiao Yan was only left with 5 Earth-grade medicinal pills. This might be quite a lot for an ordinary half-martial emperor, but it was not enough for Xiao Yan to make up for his consumption.
Looks like it is time to find time to refine some Emperor-grade medicinal pills.
Xiao Yan laughed bitterly in his heart.
At the same time, he also wanted to use this opportunity to practice his alchemy skills. After all, compared to other rank 2 alchemists,
Xiao Yan had only refined one emperor-grade medicinal pill. In comparison, Xiao Yan was weaker than other rank 2 alchemists in every aspect. Hence, this time around, Xiao Yan entered the Shilin mountain range. On one hand, he was heading towards the Western Wastelands region. On the other hand, he was practicing his alchemy skills. This process was extremely important for Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan relaxed his eyebrows and nodded slightly. He once again sat down. Both of his hands formed a training seal. The flame mantra chi method within his body also began to circulate at this moment. Threads of natural energy gradually gathered towards Xiao Yan. Guyu focused his eyes on Xiao Yan, who had once again entered a training state. He inhaled a deep breath of air, after which his body moved. He turned into a white light that entered Xiao Yan's body in a flash. A couple of wolf howls were occasionally emitted in the dark night sky. There was a slight rustling sound that quietly appeared in the dark mountain forest. An energy hurricane whistled continuously on the mountain peak. This night was not peaceful. Chapter 425. Ugh! The large amount of information that suddenly swarmed into Xiao Yan's mind caused the expression on the face of the dazed Xiao Yan to abruptly change. An intense pain was immediately and swiftly transmitted from his mind. Xiao Yan's expression also subsequently turned pale. It was a long while later before Xiao Yan gradually sorted out the large amount of information in his mind. His pale face also gradually recovered. When Xiao Yan's mind looked into his body, the first thing that Xiao Yan saw in his mind were 3 large, flickering golden words. Ice Spirit Pill. This piece of information was just like a scroll of medicinal pill formulas. Xiao Yan's heart stilled. He suddenly raised his head and looked at Guyu in front of him. His tone was uncertain as he asked, "Old Gu, this is Ice Spirit Pill. This is for you to use to swallow the heavenly flame. Don't forget that with your current strength, it is not so easy for you to swallow my actual body. Without the aid of this medicinal pill, it is likely that you will be instantly turned into ashes when the heavenly flame enters your body with your current strength." Guyu wore a mocking expression as he looked at Xiao Yan and softly laughed when he saw the surprised expression on Xiao Yan's face. Xiao Yan's expression was slightly startled when he heard this. Only then did he recall that he was currently in the Yuan-Wu continent. The heavenly flame here was many times stronger than the Do-Chi continent. It was not something that he could randomly swallow. Only a medicinal pill could increase Xiao Yan's chances of swallowing a heavenly flame. When he thought of this, Xiao Yan involuntarily recalled the scene when he had swallowed the green lotus core flame, for the first time back then. At that time, it seemed that he had relied on the ground spirit pill, that Yao Lao had refined to save Xiao Yan from a great deal of pain when he swallowed the heavenly flame. At the same time, it had also increased Xiao Yan's chances of swallowing the heavenly flame. Now, a scene that was incomparably similar to back then had once again appeared in front of Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan withdrew his gaze. He slowly shut his eyes and carefully savored the information that he had just received. Ice Spirit Pill. A Tier 3 medicinal pill. It was a Tier 3 middle-grade medicinal pill. The difficulty of refining it was considered quite difficult even among all the Tier 3 medicinal pills. Of course, it was precisely because it was difficult to refine that its true value was revealed. After all, the Ice Spirit Pill was an existence that could contend with a heavenly flame. Xiao Yan's heart involuntarily felt shocked when he thought of how a Tier 3 medicinal pill could contend with a heavenly flame and even suppress it. TSK. It is really unexpected that this Ice Spirit Pill is able to suppress the bone-chilling flame. Xiao Yan's eyes once again a moment later as he clicked his tongue and exclaimed. TCH, don't place all your hopes on this Ice Spirit Pill. Although this pill is able to suppress this old man's body, what it relies on is not the power of the pill itself, but the ice spirit chilling liquid within. While Xiao Yan was exclaiming in surprise, Guyu mentioned the most important component of the Ice Spirit Pill. That's right, it was the Ice Spirit Chilling Liquid. Speaking of the Ice Spirit Chilling Liquid, it was indeed an extremely rare treasure on the continent. Its preciousness was not inferior to the meteorite mysterious iron. In addition, it was a necessary ingredient to refine many high-grade medicinal pills. Even many Tier 8 medicinal pills could not lack the Ice Spirit Chilling Liquid as the main ingredient. Hence, whenever the Ice Spirit Chilling Liquid was discovered on the continent, it would cause a bloodbath. In the auction house, it was a priceless item. Of course, this was only because of the preciousness of the Ice Spirit Chilling Liquid. As for its use,
It was the nemesis of all flames. The ice spirit chilling liquid originated from the ice spirit chilling spring. The ice spirit chilling spring possessed an extremely frightening cold power. Wherever it was, the entire world would turn into hell. No living being could enter within a radius of 10,000 miles and no beasts could survive. Even a demonic beast at the level of a half-emperor would find it difficult to get close. If a heavenly flame possessed the most terrifyingly high temperature in the world, then the ice spirit chilling spring possessed the coldest temperature in the world. Under such a terrifyingly low temperature, even empty space would be frozen and collapse. Hence, when a heavenly flame and the ice spirit chilling liquid collided, the two extremely opposite temperature differences would reduce each other's strength until they reached a state of equilibrium. This was the effect of the ice spirit pill. Of course, the bone-chilling flame was famous for its freezing effect. However, this point was overlooked by Guyu. Xiao Yan, who possessed the protection of the heavenly flame, was able to completely ignore the freezing effect of the bone-chilling flame. Hence, as long as he could suppress the wild and violent temperature of the bone-chilling flame, the rest would depend on Xiao Yan's luck. After Xiao Yan finished reading the entire scroll of the medicinal formula, his mouth involuntarily let out an intense cough. The expression on his face had also become ugly following this. Other than the icy spirit cold liquid that Guyu had mentioned, Xiao Yan could not help but angrily spit out a mouthful of blood when he glanced at the other pill ingredients on this scroll. There were over 100 kinds of ingredients for the ice spirit pill. Although he was able to gather over half of them, the other 4 ingredients among them caused Xiao Yan to want to cry, but have no tears. Other than the icy spirit cold liquid, the other 4 types were also extremely precious medicinal ingredients for refining pills. Xiao Yan believed that with his current wealth, he would only be able to barely gather 3 of them even if he were to go bankrupt. As for the remaining 1, including the icy spirit cold liquid, Xiao Yan could only look at it and sigh. Ugh! Xiao Yan helplessly laughed bitterly. His eyebrows involuntarily furrowed together. He did not expect that he had become so poor. After exchanging 2 emperor-grade medicinal pills for the flame crystal, Xiao Yan was only left with 5 earth-grade medicinal pills. This might be quite a lot for an ordinary half-martial emperor, but it was not enough for Xiao Yan to make up for his consumption. Looks like it is time to find time to refine some emperor-grade medicinal pills. Xiao Yan laughed bitterly in his heart. At the same time, he also wanted to use this opportunity to practice his alchemy skills. After all, compared to other rank 2 alchemists, Xiao Yan had only refined 1 emperor-grade medicinal pill. In comparison, Xiao Yan was weaker than other rank 2 alchemists in every aspect. Hence, this time around, Xiao Yan entered the Shilin mountain range to head towards the western wastelands while also practicing his alchemy skills. This process was extremely important for Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan relaxed his eyebrows and nodded slightly. He once again sat down. Both of his hands formed a training seal. The flame mantra chi method within his body also began to circulate at this moment. Threads of natural energy gradually gathered towards Xiao Yan. Guyu focused his eyes on Xiao Yan, who had once again entered a training state. He inhaled a deep breath of air. After which, his body moved and he turned into a white light that entered Xiao Yan's body in a flash. A couple of wolf howls were occasionally emitted in the dark night sky. There was a slight rustling sound that quietly appeared in the dark mountain forest. An energy hurricane whistled continuously on the mountain peak. This night was not peaceful. Chapter 426. The next day the short and long night passed by quietly. When the last star in the western sky disappeared, a white light appeared on the horizon in the east. The white light appeared dim, but it caused the darkness to compromise. As the white light grew increasingly intense, the darkness also scattered. Finally, a fiery red sun slowly rose into the sky, as though it had just woken up from a deep slumber. It carried a weary feeling. Feeling the warm temperature on his back, Xiao Yan slowly woke up from his training state. An entire night of training did not cause Xiao Yan to feel even the slightest bit tired. On the contrary, it caused Xiao Yan to feel even more energetic. Standing up, Xiao Yan pulled out the heavy Xian buster sword that was stuck in the crevice of a rock. As the rock fragments scattered, Xiao Yan carried the heavy Xian buster sword on his back. He pushed off the rock with the tip of his foot and leaped forward slightly. His black robe fluttered in the wind. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Yan had already appeared in the sky 100 feet away. During the journey, Xiao Yan did not forget to use his spiritual energy to search the mountain forest below. This time, other than trying his luck to find the flame crystals, he also wanted to find some medicinal ingredients to refine Emperor-grade elixir pills. Looking at the medicinal ingredients left in Xiao Yan's storage ring, there were only a few that could be used to refine Emperor-grade elixir pills. With Xiao Yan's current alchemy skills, these medicinal ingredients were not enough for Xiao Yan to refine an Emperor-grade elixir pill. Therefore, he had to collect more medicinal ingredients. Only through repeated failures could Xiao Yan gain more experience and increase his success rate of refining Emperor-grade elixir pills. Although this kind of search was not easy, Xiao Yan had finally obtained a couple of medicinal ingredients that he needed after experiencing a couple of big battles. On a certain mountain peak, Xiao Yan gazed at the endless mountain range in the west. After a month of travel, Xiao Yan was about to reach the depths of the Shilin mountain range.
Although Xiao Yan had yet to enter that place, he had already clearly sensed a couple of powerful auras from the probing of his spiritual strength.
This involuntarily caused Xiao Yan's face to reveal a grave expression. If he guessed correctly, the owners of those few auras were likely magical beasts at the level of 9-star Band D. This Shilin mountain range is really full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Who knows how long these magical beasts have existed?
Their cultivation has actually reached such a level.
It's hard to imagine what the interior of the Shilin mountain range is like.
Xiao Yan gazed at the direction of the auras in front of him and could not help but exclaim.
At the same time Xiao Yan sensed those auras, they also sensed Xiao Yan's senses. Humans? Go back to where you came from.
Don't disturb our cultivation.
This is not a place that you can casually step into. Deep within the mountain range, an indifferent voice echoed out. In the end, it landed in Xiao Yan's ears. The power contained within those words caused Xiao Yan to involuntarily furrow his brows. Seemingly having seen through Xiao Yan's strength, the attitude of the person who spoke was not overbearing. His indifferent voice was only advising Xiao Yan to leave on his own accord. Xiao Yan only smiled in a relaxed manner after hearing the meaning behind the words. He immediately cupped his hands in the direction of those few people and said with a smile, "Everyone, please don't worry. I'm only passing by your precious land and wish to borrow a path. If I've disturbed you in any way, please forgive me. Brat, I can see that it's not easy for you to cultivate and I don't want to kill you. I advise you to turn back now and leave the Shilin mountain range. As for passing by, you should take a detour. Otherwise, don't blame us for bullying you." This time, the indifferent voice had become somewhat stern and fierce. A tyrannical feeling was also revealed within it. However, Xiao Yan's expression remained indifferent.
The smile at the corners of his mouth gradually disappeared and a determined expression was revealed on his handsome face.
Although the other party was a 9-star half-emperor, he had no choice but to borrow this path. Currently, the time was not right and he did not want to so easily encounter the 4 great sections. Therefore, if he wanted to head to the western desolated region, he had to pass through the Shilin mountain range no matter what.
Withdrawing his gaze, Xiao Yan sat down with an indifferent expression.
With a wave of his hand, a scarlet-red medicinal cauldron immediately appeared in front of Xiao Yan. It was the 1,000-beast cauldron. In order to not attract too much trouble for himself, Xiao Yan could only temporarily use the 1,000-beast cauldron. After all, the Luo Tian Divine Cauldron was ranked second on the Heavenly Cauldron ranking. Its allure was really too frightening. If Xiao Yan really took out the Luo Tian Divine Cauldron and it was discovered, not only would the Shilin mountain range, even the entire western region would become lively. With a flick of his finger, a strand of gorgeous heavenly flame shot into the medicinal cauldron. With a puff, the heavenly flame rose and the temperature within the medicinal cauldron also rose. After doing all this, Xiao Yan's hands did not stop moving.
With a large wave of his hand, light flickered between his fingers and stalk after stalk of medicinal ingredients that contained a rich medicinal fragrance rushed into the air.
Xiao Yan's 10 fingers continuously flicked and stalk after stalk of medicinal ingredients seemed to have received an order as they were rapidly thrown into the medicinal cauldron in front of Xiao Yan. With the refinement of the heavenly flame, the medicinal energy within was also refined. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Yan had already sat cross-legged on this mountain peak for half a month. During this half a month, the medicinal ingredients within Xiao Yan's medicinal cauldron had been destroyed no less than 5 times. Those medicinal ingredients that were destroyed were usually existences that had a price but no market in the outside world.
After seeing the medicinal ingredients in his medicinal cauldron being swallowed by the heavenly flame 5 times in a row, Xiao Yan could not help but feel a heartache in his heart. Among those medicinal ingredients, other than a portion that he had obtained from the Alchemist Association in the ancient Savage City, the majority of them were painstakingly obtained in the Shilin mountain range. Now that they had been turned into ashes by the heavenly flame with a puff, no matter who it was, they would feel heartache. Of course, although he felt heartache, Xiao Yan had also gained quite a lot of experience from his repeated failures. These experiences would ensure that Xiao Yan would greatly reduce the chances of failure in refining pills in the future. Although this was on the premise that Xiao Yan had destroyed quite a number of medicinal ingredients, the benefits that Xiao Yan had gained from this would last for the rest of his life. After nearly 2 months of hard work, Xiao Yan had finally successfully attracted 2 pill lightnings. The appearance of the 2 pill lightnings gave Xiao Yan even greater confidence in refining D-tier medicinal pills. The Northern King's strength had once again increased with the help of the 2 pill lightnings. Even though this increase was not great, in Xiao Yan's opinion, it was still something worth celebrating. In the end, Xiao Yan had stayed in the outskirts of the Shilin mountain range for half a year. In this half a year, other than recovering his exhausted Do Qi, Xiao Yan had also wholeheartedly devoted himself to refining pills. Heaven did not disappoint those who worked hard. After half a year of tempering, Xiao Yan already had a 70% confidence in his success rate in refining D-tier medicinal pills. Among alchemists of the same level, this was already something that Xiao Yan could be very proud of. At the same time that Xiao Yan's alchemy skills were crazily increasing, his strength as a 5-star half-martial emperor had also been completely consolidated. He was only a step away from reaching the middle stage of the 5-star half-martial emperor realm. The harvest of both his alchemy skills and strength was undoubtedly the happiest thing that had happened to Xiao Yan in the past half a year. As for the Northern King, after experiencing a total of 8 pill lightnings, his strength had already reached the peak of the late stage of the 9-star half-martial emperor realm. There was not much difference between him and a true Do Di. It was just that Xiao Yan did not know what kind of scene it would be if the Northern King really stepped into the Do Di realm one day. Would he also attract a lightning tribulation like a living person? Of course, before that happened, Xiao Yan naturally had no idea. After resting for a night, Xiao Yan slowly withdrew from his training state in the morning. The past half a year did not leave anything on Xiao Yan's face. If there was anything, it would be a mature charm that was even more attractive. Xiao Yan gently exhaled and stood up. Following the sound of bones colliding, Xiao Yan slowly raised his head. His gaze once again looked toward the mountain range in the distance. The corner of his mouth lifted into a smile. With a move of his body, he flew toward the west. Chapter 427. Whoosh! Suddenly in the clear sky, a violent gale swept through heaven and earth. Waves of trees surged like a tsunami in the sea of trees below. This extremely unusual scene immediately alarmed some of the low-rank magical beasts in the forest. However, when they raised their heads to look at the sky, they did not discover anything. In the sky, Xiao Yan borrowed the miraculousness of the sky annihilation steps to merge his aura with the heaven and earth. This caused Xiao Yan to be unable to discover his existence as he rapidly flew. However, even though this was the case, Xiao Yan did not dare to be careless in the slightest. While ordinary low-rank magical beasts were unable to discover him, it did not mean that those 3 magical beasts were similarly unable to discover his existence. As 9-star half-martial emperors, they naturally possessed their own powerful aspects. Although Xiao Yan's method of concealing his aura was extremely brilliant, in reality, the 3 masters of this region had already discovered Xiao Yan's existence the moment Xiao Yan set foot in the sky. At this moment, Xiao Yan could only pray in his heart that he would be able to pass through their territory before those 3 magical beasts arrived. However, in reality, Xiao Yan's prayers were completely useless. Boy, I've already told you to leave this place. This is not a place you should have come to. We do not wish to kill you. If you are to leave now, we can still let you go. However, if you continue to persist in going about things the wrong way, do not blame us for what happens next. While Xiao Yan was swiftly flying, a thunder-like low and deep voice was suddenly transmitted from the sky where he was located at this moment. At the same time, 3 frightening auras appeared in the sky. Immediately, as if Mount Tai was pressing down on him, they smashed down onto Xiao Yan who was in the sky. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yan shouted "Oh no" in his heart. His expression also changed. If there was only a single 9-star half-martial emperor, it would be fine.
However, to Xiao Yan, facing 3 9-star half-martial emperors at the same time, it was still difficult for him to resist. At the same time as the oppressive auras smashed down, Xiao Yan also used the Sky Annihilation Steps with all his might. At this moment, the speed of the Sky Annihilation Steps exploded forth. After revealing himself, Xiao Yan immediately turned into a black lightning. With lightning speed, he appeared in the sky several hundred feet away in an instant. Although this was the case, Xiao Yan's speed did not decrease in the slightest. That was because Xiao Yan had already clearly sensed that one of the 3 9-star half-martial emperor's speed was something that even Xiao Yan's Sky Annihilation Steps could not compare to. Humph! Boy, your speed is not slow. Unfortunately, before this king you are still too inferior. A surprised expression was revealed in Xiao Yan's blue eyes. Immediately, a violent wild wind suddenly swept across the sky behind Xiao Yan. At the same time, an enormous shadow swept across the mountain forest below. In the blink of an eye, it had already caught up with Xiao Yan. Boy, you don't have to run anymore. Before this king, your speed is still too inexperienced. A calm voice sounded. Soon after, a white palm extended from behind Xiao Yan. The palm was about to land on Xiao Yan's shoulder and forcibly stop him in midair. 6 Paths Tent. Open! Xiao Yan shouted in his heart. At the instant when the white palm landed, a black tent suddenly condensed in front of him. As for Xiao Yan, he plunged his head into it and disappeared in the blink of an eye. That white palm also unexpectedly missed. I have no other choice but to take this path. I hope that the 3 of you can give way. If I return in the future, I will definitely thank all of you. However, today, this path must be borrowed. Even if you don't want to, you must borrow it. When Xiao Yan's body disappeared, his unwavering voice resounded across the sky. Oh! Seeing that Xiao Yan's body had actually disappeared so abruptly, the person behind him could not help but be slightly stunned. Soon after, he recalled the black tent that Xiao Yan had released earlier. That is Great Tao Energy. No wonder he dared to say such words. So it turns out that he does have some ability. Thinking of this, a shocked expression suddenly appeared on that person's face. He did not expect that a mere 5-star half-martial emperor brat would actually be able to control Great Tao Energy. This was truly astonishing. The instant that person raised his eyes, he saw that Xiao Yan had already appeared not far in front of him. At the instant when Xiao Yan appeared, he once again released the 6 Paths tent. This continued until Xiao Yan's 6 Paths tent was completely released. At this moment, Xiao Yan had already appeared at the end of the line of sight of the 3 people behind him. From the looks of it, as long as Xiao Yan was able to persist for a little longer, he would be able to leave the area of influence of these 3 people. Tianying, what's going on? Why did you stop here?
Seeing that the blue-robed man was actually standing in the void, a red-haired brawny man who had just rushed over could not help but ask loudly. At the same time, beside him, a brawny man who was close to 3 meters in height also looked at the blue-robed man in front of him with a puzzled expression in his eyes.
TSK, do you know? This human brat has actually already controlled Great Tao Energy. Tianying could not help but exclaim in surprise. He turned around and looked at the 2 people behind him. Hearing this, a shocked expression instantly appeared on the 2 people's faces. A half-martial emperor could actually comprehend Great Tao? This brat is definitely not an ordinary person. Regardless of whether he is an ordinary person or not, we must not let him go any further. If something happens, both of us will not be able to bear the responsibility. Hearing this, the red-haired brawny man's tone deepened as he reminded Tianying. Haha, relax. I know what I am doing. I am just a little surprised. What kind of strange talent is this brat? This king has been famous for hundreds of years, but I have never heard of a person who could comprehend Great Tao at the half-martial emperor level. Tianying once again exclaimed from the bottom of his heart. Only then did his eyes reveal a surprised expression as he sighed. He turned around and looked at the edge of his sight. A black spot that was as tiny as sand shot into Tianying's eyes. Haha, same here. His speed is also the fastest among the half-martial emperors that I have ever seen. If he is a little stronger, even this king would be unable to catch up to him. Hearing Tianying's continuous exclamations about Xiao Yan, the red-haired brawny man and the brawny man who had not spoken looked at each other. Their eyes also revealed a shocked expression. Even if it was them,
They had never heard Tianying give such an evaluation of a person.
Screech.
The moment the two of them turned around, Tianying had already changed his body. In the blink of an eye, he had transformed into a huge beast that covered the sky.
The huge beast's appearance was like an eagle.
Both of its wings were nearly 10,000 feet wide. As it flapped its wings, it brought about a terrifying hurricane that swept across the sky, causing the mountain forest below to tremble.
The huge eagle spread its wings.
In the next moment, it was already approaching Xiao Yan with a terrifying speed. Under Xiao Yan's shocked gaze, it descended above Xiao Yan's head. Its huge eagle claws descended and grabbed onto Xiao Yan.
Chapter 428.
Brat, no one is allowed to take half a step into the hinterland of the Shilin mountain range.
This is my final warning to you.
If you continue to be so stubborn, do not blame me for being merciless. The eagle claws of the sky eagle were just like a cage as it restrained Xiao Yan in the empty sky. Its low and deep voice reverberated over the entire place. Following the flapping of the sky eagle's wings, numerous hurricanes carried invisible waves that swept in all directions. Upon hearing Sky Eagle's words, Xiao Yan involuntarily frowned. However, the determined expression in his pitch-black eyes did not change at all. I have no intention of disturbing the three of you. However, as for leaving, I will still say the same thing. Today, you will have to borrow this path even if you don't want to.
Humph. What an arrogant tone. Brat, aren't you?
Tianying involuntarily let out a cold laugh when Xiao Yan's cry had just left his mouth. However, before the words from his mouth could fade, Xiao Yan, who was being controlled by his eagle claw, suddenly began to move.
King Kong glass body. Break.
After the King Kong glass body was unleashed, Xiao Yan's body had already become several times larger in the blink of an eye. At the same time, Sky Eagle's eagle claws were no longer able to trap Xiao Yan. After breaking free from the restraints, Xiao Yan's enormous body did not hesitate as it ferociously swooped down towards the mountain forest below. Only there would Xiao Yan be able to dodge the huge eagle above his head. Sky Eagle in the sky could not help but feel astonished that Xiao Yan was actually able to break free from his eagle claws. As a magical beast, his physical body was extremely powerful. Sky Eagle did not doubt that with his current physical strength, even an ordinary 7-star half-emperor would not be able to easily break free from his eagle claws. At this moment, Xiao Yan, a human with the strength of a mere 5-star half-emperor, was actually able to instantly break free. Although the King Kong glass body played a large part in this, just this point alone was enough to show that Xiao Yan's fighting strength was definitely not something that an ordinary half-emperor could compare with. Good lad. No wonder you dared to barge into the territory of the three of us. I have to say that you do have some skills. However, I have already said that today, you can either go back or stay here. The Sky Eagle's mouth involuntarily let out an exclamation. Its enormous body forcefully twisted in the empty space and once again grabbed at Xiao Yan below.
Flame-splitting tsunami.
Just as Sky Eagle's eagle claws were about to grab Xiao Yan, who was rapidly descending, suddenly turned around in the air. At the same time, a huge pitch-black ruler appeared in his hand. As Xiao Yan let out an explosive shout, a gorgeous heavenly flame rapidly lingered around the heavy ruler. The instant the huge ruler was swung, a shocking ruler light instantly swept across the sky and ruthlessly smashed towards the eagle claws behind Xiao Yan. Sky Eagle Wind-Ripping Claw. Sky Eagle did not dare to underestimate the incoming ruler light. After sensing the true strength that Xiao Yan possessed, Sky Eagle no longer dared to underestimate this human brat with the strength of a mere 5-star half-emperor. After the shocking ruler light was broken, Xiao Yan's body had already descended into the mountain forest below. His body also returned to its original size. Heh, you actually used such a method to avoid my pursuit, huh? However, don't forget that there are three of us.
Sky Eagle smiled.
Its enormous body instantly turned into human form as it faced the wind. After which, it suddenly cried out sternly towards its back. Flame Lion, Xionggang, it should be your turn. Otherwise, this brat will really run away. Hehe, your speed is so fast. Why can't you catch up to a 5-star half-emperor? While Sky Eagle's cry sounded, a rough mocking laughter was transmitted from a certain part of the mountain forest below. When it entered Sky Eagle's ears, it caused the latter to involuntarily curl his mouth. Only then did he say, "It is not like you don't know that although my speed is not weak, I can only occupy the sky." As for the forest,
It is better for you all to occupy it.
Haha, brat, Sky Eagle's evaluation of you is the highest that we have ever seen. Therefore, I also wish to see if you are worthy of this evaluation. The red-haired strong man laughed out loud. Immediately, his body shook violently as he let out an earth-shaking lion roar at the sky. His legs moved and his feet suddenly stepped on empty air. In the next instant, the strong body of the flame lion transformed into a bright red cannonball that instantly charged into the mountain forest below. Xiao Yan, who was in the mountain forest, had just landed on the ground. His body had yet to stabilize when the dense forest in front of him was forcefully pushed apart by an overbearing strength. Immediately, a strong human figure, whose entire body was wrapped in a flame dough chi, appeared in Xiao Yan's sight.
Haha! I am called Flame Lion. The one in the sky is called Sky Eagle. The one behind me is called Xiong Gang. Brat, what is your name?
The flame lion laughed loudly and asked Xiao Yan as his body charged forward. Seeing that the flame lion had already arrived in front of him in the blink of an eye, Xiao Yan's face did not dare to show the slightest carelessness.
His body swiftly turned and once again displayed the King Kong glass body. An enormous ruler appeared in his hand.
Without even thinking, he swung the ruler at the flame lion that was charging over.
7-layered sky-breaking ruler.
Lion Aura Fist.
Bang! Following an earth-shaking explosion, the mountain forest below was forcefully flattened by a frightening energy storm. Sky Eagle watched this scene from the sky.
His blue eyes involuntarily revealed a shocked expression.
Xiao Yan's strength was much greater than he had imagined.
After 2 seconds, Xiao Yan, who was in the center of the storm, involuntarily let out a muffled groan.
As his throat rolled, his face rapidly turned red.
A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. After all, his opponent was a 9-star half-martial emperor.
With just Xiao Yan's strength, it was still somewhat difficult for him to withstand the attack. It was inevitable that he would suffer a loss.
Seeing that Xiao Yan only had blood at the corner of his mouth after receiving his punch, the flame lion involuntarily revealed a surprised expression.
This punch of his had once killed a 6-star half-martial emperor expert with a single punch. Yet, at this moment, Xiao Yan before him was only slightly injured. Just from this point alone, it could be seen that Xiao Yan's strength was absolutely not ordinary.
Haha, not bad indeed. Brat, Sky Eagle's evaluation is indeed correct. Your strength is indeed the most extraordinary among all the half-martial emperors I have seen. With your current battle strength, I'm afraid that you are already capable of dealing with ordinary 8-star half-martial emperors.
The flame lion's eyes shone.
The admiration he had for Xiao Yan in his words was even greater.
However, at this moment, Xiao Yan was unable to raise the slightest emotion in his heart. With his ruler technique broken, Xiao Yan did not dare to be careless in the slightest. Borrowing the rebound force, Xiao Yan rapidly turned around and once again entered the mountain forest behind him. Chapter 429. Heh, kid, are you going to run again? With the 3 of us here, where do you think you can run to? Listen to my advice and turn back as soon as possible and leave this place. Otherwise, we will really have to kill you. Seeing Xiao Yan once again charge into the mountain forest, the flame lion could not help but laugh softly. Soon after, it released a low roar from its mouth. Its body moved once again and swiftly chased in the direction that Xiao Yan had fled. Cough cough. I do not wish to become enemies with the 3 of you. However, I must take this path today. If I have offended you in any way, I can only repay you when I return in the future. As the flame lion's cry sounded, Xiao Yan also loudly said to the flame lion who was charging behind him once again. At the same time, Xiao Yan's forward speed suddenly increased. Kid, we have already said that no one is allowed to enter the hinterland of the Shilin mountain range. It is absolutely impossible to pass through us. Therefore you should turn back. As the flame lion's cry sounded, its body also appeared behind Xiao Yan. Its large hand reached forward and grabbed at Xiao Yan's shoulder. Octane Blast. In the next instant, just as the flame lion's large palm was about to land on Xiao Yan's shoulder, Xiao Yan suddenly turned around and viciously threw a punch at the flame lion behind him. Bang! Following a bang sound, the flame lion's forward-charging body paused for an instant in the empty air. Xiao Yan, on the other hand, borrowed the rebounding force that was created when the 2 of them collided to swiftly withdraw. By the time the flame lion raised its head, Xiao Yan's figure had once again disappeared into the dense forest. Good kid,
The strength of this physical body is really terrifying. I am really curious. Is this kid really human?
With a sudden jerk of its arm, the flame lion shook off the numbness on its left arm. After which, it once again sighed in admiration for Xiao Yan from the bottom of its heart.
Immediately, the flame lion turned its head to look behind it. Behind it, the huge burly man called Xionggang was quickly flying over. Hee, Xionggang, it's your turn now. This kid's speed is really too terrifying. If I continue to chase like this, I'm afraid that even if I chase until tomorrow, it will still be difficult to catch up to him.
Therefore, I can only rely on you to stop him here.
As he approached, Xionggang smiled at the flame lion in front of him with a simple and honest expression. His hand landed heavily on the flame lion's shoulder. The terrifying force caused even the flame lion's expression to change slightly. Hee, don't worry. Leave it to me. With me here, no matter how fast he is, he won't be able to leave this place.
Xionggang parted his mouth into a smile.
He immediately raised his head to look at the sky eagle in the sky and laughed. I'm coming. Roar! As his voice faded, Xionggang suddenly let out an earth-shaking roar towards the sky. Immediately, his burly body began to change. In the blink of an eye, Xiongang's burly body had already turned into a terrifying giant beast that was 100 feet tall. Looking from afar, the appearance of this giant beast was just like an enlarged brown bear. The giant bear's body was covered with a huge rock armor that was indestructible. This giant beast was just like a living Mount Tai. Every step it took caused the ground to tremble. In the mountain forest, Xiao Yan hurriedly turned his head to look behind him. A frightening huge beast was swiftly approaching him. Even with his speed, it was difficult for him to catch up to this huge beast by even one step. Starfall. Following the appearance of a thunder-like sound, the entire place trembled slightly. At the same time, an earthen yellow dough chi agglomerated in the empty space. In the blink of an eye, it transformed into numerous enormous meteorites that covered the entire sky. In the next instant, the instant those meteorites condensed, they furiously smashed down toward Xiao Yan, who was in the mountain forest below. The giant meteorites started to burn for no reason as they fell. Raging flames wrapped around every single meteorite. At this moment, it was as if a meteor shower was falling from the clear sky. It was both beautiful and frightening. In the mountain forest, Xiao Yan raised his head to look at the meteorites that covered the entire sky. He could not help but feel shocked by the strength of a 9-star half-emperor. At the same time, a serious feeling rose in his heart. This time, Xionggang had used his true strength against Xiao Yan. With just this attack, Xiao Yan had nowhere to dodge. He could only face it head-on. Huff! After stopping his body, Xiao Yan deeply exhaled. He finally stopped dodging and leaped into the sky. Xiao Yan raised his head to look at the several hundred meteorites above him with a solemn expression. Heh, this brat is finally willing to come out. Otherwise, I would really have no way of dealing with you. In the sky, Tianning crossed his arms over his chest. When he saw Xiao Yan come out, the corner of his mouth was lifted into a playful smile. At the same time, however, the gaze he used to look at Xiao Yan was filled with curiosity. He wanted to know just what kind of great strength this human in front of him could unleash. Following a clear snap of his finger, clusters of different colored heavenly flames appeared in front of Xiao Yan with a puff sound. The frightening temperature caused the temperature of the area to immediately rise. The flames that rose from the surface of the meteorites in the sky were instantly extinguished at this moment. In front of a heavenly flame, ordinary flames did not even have the possibility of existing. This was the pride of a heavenly flame. It was also the authority of a heavenly flame as the Emperor of Flames. This is a heavenly flame? When they saw the heavenly flame, Tianning in the sky, the flame lion and Xionggang below could not help but be slightly startled. It was unexpected that this black-robed human in front of them was not only powerful, he was actually able to control the most frightening energy in the world, a heavenly flame. Even though this was the case, it was unable to stop the determination of the three of them to stop Xiao Yan from entering the Shilin mountain range. Xiao Yan looked at the rising heavenly flame in front of him. His expression was calm. His spiritual strength surged out and agglomerated the flame in front of him in a familiar manner. When they saw this scene, the expressions of the three of them immediately changed. Everyone knew that a heavenly flame was the most violent energy in the world. It was impossible to merge two types of heavenly flames.
However, from the actions of this black-robed human in front of them, it seemed like he wanted to merge all the heavenly flames in front of him together.
This brat. Is he crazy? In the sky, Tianying's expression was a little ugly as he stared at Xiao Yan below.
His heart could not help but feel a little fearful.
Even though this was only a seed flame, it was still not to be underestimated.
Once the heavenly flame went berserk, its strength would likely be able to destroy the territory that the three of them were in an instant.
However, when Tianying saw Xiao Yan's calm expression, a trace of doubt involuntarily rose in his heart. Could it be that this black-robed human really had the confidence to merge the energy of the heavenly flame? At this moment, a frightening aura once again gathered in Xiao Yan's palm. Traces of spatial crack lines appeared in the surrounding empty space at this moment. The invisible natural energy in the world also began to churn. When they sensed this little change in the world, Tianying and the other two instantly turned their eyes toward Xiao Yan below. At the same time, a basin-sized fire lotus was completely formed in Xiao Yan's palm. This brat. In the sky, Tianying's blue eyes suddenly shrunk. His mouth involuntarily cried out in surprise. Below, Xiao Yan slowly lifted his head and looked at the meteorite that was rapidly descending.
The corners of his mouth were lifted into a faint smile.
His hand gently pushed forward as his mouth softly said, "Go, angry Buddha Lotus Flame." Chapter 430. Under the azure sky, there were meteors falling from the empty space like raindrops. An invisible pressure caused the entire place to be enveloped in an extremely tense atmosphere. While the meteor was falling, there was a brilliant fire glow in the empty space below the meteor. It emitted a bright glow. Even though it was daytime, it was still dazzling to the eyes. This brat has actually merged the heavenly flames together. Tianying's expression changed.
It was unexpected that Xiao Yan was actually able to do such a crazy thing that an ordinary person would not even dare to think of.
At the same time, Tianying's eyes involuntarily revealed a shocked expression when he looked at the angry Buddha lotus flame. The might of this fire lotus caused even his expression to involuntarily change. This brat is deliberately trying to destroy my cave. Xionggang, you better block him for me. Otherwise, if my home is gone, I will stay at your home.
The corner of the flame lion's mouth involuntarily twitched when he sensed the frightening energy contained within the fire lotus.
Immediately, he lifted his head and looked at the enormous Xionggang in front of him as he cried out loudly, "Roar!" The words from the flame lion's mouth had just sounded when Xionggang in front of him turned around and roared. After which, Xionggang once again turned around amidst the flame lion's mocking laughter and faced Xiao Yan. Although Xiongang's limbs were well developed, he was definitely not a simple-minded fellow. How could an ordinary magical beast compare to him when he was able to reach such a stage? He had already sensed a rich explosive aura from this angry Buddha lotus flame of Xiao Yan. That kind of strength was already sufficient for him to take it seriously. Bang! Suddenly, a frightening explosion spread. In the blink of an eye, the color of the sky changed. High up in the sky, the expression on Tianying's face also suddenly changed at this moment. Following the eruption of the angry Buddha lotus flame, a huge fire lotus slowly formed in the sky along with the energy storm. At the same time that the fire lotus bloomed, circular extremely frightening energy storms swiftly swept out in all directions. Retreat! Tianying decisively let out a stern cry. He waved his large sleeve and his body immediately withdrew. The flame lion below also let out a low cry. His feet suddenly stepped on empty air and he swiftly turned around to withdraw. The heavenly eagle and flame lion withdrew, but Xiongang's enormous mountain-like body did not move. His original form was a rock armor bear. In the magical beast world, his defensive strength was renowned. Although it could not compare to the Shenyan beast, given his current cultivation, there was no need for him to retreat in the face of Xiao Yan's angry Buddha lotus flame. Roar! With a furious roar, Xiongang's enormous bear paw violently stomped on the ground. Immediately, before the energy storm could completely spread, the ground below suddenly shook intensely. Soon after, numerous enormous rock pillars broke out from the ground and suddenly rose from the ground. They transformed into a huge encirclement that completely sealed the energy storm within it. Move the mountains and rivers. Good fellow, I haven't seen you use this move in a long time. Haha. Seeing this scene, the flame lion, who was outside the encirclement, could not help but laugh in surprise. Haha, I remember that the last time I saw him use it,
It was to help that fellow block the spreading of the ice seal. Unexpectedly, it is actually used to deal with a 5-star half-martial emperor human this time. Tianying laughed as he watched the scene in front of him. His pair of blue eyes occasionally revealed an expression of praise. When the flame lion heard the person mentioned by Tianying, the muscles on his face involuntarily twitched slightly. When he thought of that terrifying person in his heart, even though he was a 9-star half-martial emperor, he still involuntarily felt his entire body tremble. Bang! 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 The frightening energy storm continued for a full 10 minutes. Each time it struck, it would cause the entire place to shake. Even though this was the case, over half of the sky-reaching stone pillars that surrounded the fire lotus still stood tall and did not fall. When the might of the fire lotus dissipated, Xionggang once again returned to his human form. Together with the other two, they rapidly caught up to Xiao Yan, who had yet to run far away. Heh, brat. I must say that you are truly extraordinary. You are actually able to erupt with power that frightens even us with the strength of a 5-star half-martial emperor. However, we have caused enough trouble today. We will not play with you anymore. I will warn you one last time. If you leave now, we can still let you go. Otherwise, we can only follow the rules. The flame lion had a face full of smiles as he looked at Xiao Yan before him. There was an indescribable expression of praise on his face. As for the other two, although their expressions were different, the gazes with which they looked at Xiao Yan were filled with admiration. In their impressions, there had never been a 5-star half-martial emperor that could run for so long while being chased by them. It was even more impossible for them to take someone seriously. The Xiao Yan before them was the first such person. However, even though the flame lion had said all sorts of praises, Xiao Yan had already made up his mind. No matter what, he had to pass through the Shilin mountain range. Otherwise, he could only return to the human city. At that time, what he would have to face would not be as simple as a mere half-martial emperor. Taking in a deep breath, Xiao Yan's gaze slowly swept over the three people around him. After a long while he said in a serious voice, "Sorry, I have made up my mind." "I'm sorry, but I've already made up my mind. Even if the three of you don't let me, I still have to try." After saying those words, Xiao Yan waved his hand and the heavy Xian ruler appeared in his hand. At the same time, a black light flickered in the space before Xiao Yan. Then, the Northern King's figure appeared before the three heavenly eagles. Oh! The expressions on the three people's faces involuntarily changed when they saw the Northern King. When the three of them noticed the Northern King's empty eyes, they immediately understood that the big fellow before them was only a puppet. However, soon after, when the three of them sensed the Northern King's strength, their expressions involuntarily changed once again. This is a 9-star half-martial emperor. How is this possible? A puppet actually has the strength of a 9-star half-martial emperor. The three of them looked at each other. They did not expect that a puppet's strength would be so strong that it was on par with them. This was truly unimaginable. Kesese, kid, the surprises you have given us are simply too many. Tianying's gaze focused on Xiao Yan as he spoke in a serious tone. As for the other two people beside him, they stared intently at the Northern King's body after he appeared. This was especially so for the flame lion. His scarlet eyes revealed a blazing battle intent. Amongst the three of them, he was the most belligerent. Now that he had sensed the extraordinariness of the Northern King, he naturally wanted to have a good fight with him. If possible, I really do not wish to fight with the three of you. However, I have no other choice. If I do not take this path, I will have no other choice. Hence, I'm afraid that I can only trouble the three of you. Xiao Yan spoke in a deep voice as he waved the heavy ruler in his hand. The heavy ruler was accompanied by a sharp wind pressure as it danced to the side. The dou qi in his body swiftly rose as he solemnly stared at the three people in front of him and spoke in a deep voice. Similarly, we are also acting according to the rules. No one is allowed to take even half a step into the hinterland of the Shilin mountain range. Hence, you should also understand that if you continue to be stubborn, we will have no choice but to be ruthless. Tianying's gaze was sharp as the expression in his eyes gradually turned indifferent. Regardless of how talented Xiao Yan was, the rules of this place could not be changed. Chapter 431. Haha, the two of you take care of that brat. As for that puppet, leave it to me. Hee hee. I also wish to see how much of a 9-star half-martial emperor's strength a puppet with the strength of a 9-star half-martial emperor can unleash. A fiery expression was revealed on the flame lion's face when he saw that the atmosphere had gradually become tense. His body moved and he stood in front of the Northern King. As for Xiao Yan, he was thrown to the other two. Tianying and Xiongang's expressions remained calm when they saw this. They naturally understood the temperament of the flame lion in their hearts. Therefore they did not care. However, although Xiao Yan had avoided the trouble of the flame lion, he would still be defeated if he were to face two 9-star half-martial emperors alone. Even though this was the case, in order to leave this place, Xiao Yan could only brace himself. If there was no other way, he might as well call Guyu out. He believed that as long as Guyu was present, Xiao Yan would be able to do whatever he wanted in the entire Shilin mountain range. After calming himself down, a thought passed through Xiao Yan's mind. A gorgeous heavenly flame immediately surged out from Xiao Yan's body. It followed Xiao Yan's arm and gradually spread to the huge ruler in his hand. "Looks like you are still stubborn." Tianying narrowed his eyes and warned Xiao Yan in a deep voice. Hearing this, Xiao Yan slowly increased the strength of the hand that was holding the heavy Xian ruler. The heavy and huge ruler became incomparably nimble in Xiao Yan's hand. Raising his head, Xiao Yan's gaze locked onto Tianying. He said in a deep voice, "I am Xiao Yan. Please enlighten me." Tianying. After a simple self-introduction, Tianying's large sleeve swept across the empty space in front of him. Cool wind gathered and a transparent sharp sword formed by wind appeared in Tianying's hand. As for Xionggang, he suddenly clenched his fists tightly. Earth-yellow dough chi swiftly gathered between his hands. Soon after, a pair of rock-made bear claws were formed on his wide hands. The atmosphere was silent for a while. On the other side, the flame lion, who was facing off against the North King, made the first move. The moment he made his move, he unleashed a fierce and domineering attack, quickly engaging in battle with the North King. On the other side, while the flame lion and the Northern King were fighting, Xiao Yan, who was wielding his heavy ruler, also instantly executed the sky extinction step. With a sweep of his huge ruler, he charged over together with the Sky Eagle. Compared to Xionggang, Sky Eagle was undoubtedly much easier to deal with. Even though Heavenly Eagle's speed was so fast that even Xiao Yan found it hard to catch up to it, Xiao Yan had a soul strength that far surpassed the three of them. By relying on the advantage of his soul strength and the sky extinction steps, Xiao Yan was still able to contend with Heavenly Eagle. However, if it was Xionggang instead, Xiao Yan did not have much confidence. Xiongang's muscles were as hard as steel. Even with Xiao Yan's physical strength, it was impossible for him to break through his defenses. Furthermore, Xiongang's strength was that of a 9-star half-emperor. His strength was impeccable. Comparing the two, Xiao Yan felt that Heavenly Eagle would be easier to deal with. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Yan had already arrived before the Sky Eagle. The dou qi within his body crazily surged. He raised his huge ruler high above his head and tightly gripped the ruler's hilt with both hands. With a twist of his body, he ruthlessly swung his ruler at the Sky Eagle. Seeing this scene, the Sky Eagle's expression did not change. He clasped his two fingers together and casually waved them. The transparent long sword floating in front of the Sky Eagle met the incoming huge ruler head-on. Clang! Following a clear metallic collision sound, the huge ruler in Xiao Yan's hand was forcibly stopped by the Sky Eagle's casual attack. It was unable to advance even an inch. Roar! Right at this moment, the nearby Xionggang also brandished his bear claws and ruthlessly hacked them at Xiao Yan. At the same time as the rock bear claws streaked across the empty space, a frightening power forcibly tore many pitch-black cracks in the empty space. Although Xiongang's speed was slightly slower, he had already arrived beside Xiao Yan by borrowing the time when the Sky Eagle and Xiao Yan clashed. Both of his arms waved and a pair of rock claws hacked at Xiao Yan in a crisscross manner. Sensing the frightening aura attacking from the side, Xiao Yan did not dare to be careless. The heavy Xian ruler in his hand shook with great force and forced the long sword back a little. Soon after, he used this small gap to turn around. At the same time, the huge ruler in his hand was swiftly wrapped by the heavenly flame and violently swung it at Xionggang. 7-layered sky-breaking ruler. 1 ruler. Bang! After the attack landed, Xionggang was forced back over a dozen steps. On the other hand, Xiao Yan was forced back nearly 100 steps. The Sky Eagle once again launched an attack at Xiao Yan. Ding ding ding! Intense collisions unceasingly sounded in the sky. As for Xiao Yan, by relying on all of his absolute skills,
He was surrounded by dangers from the two 9-star half-martial emperors. Although it was inevitable for him to be injured, this still caused the two 9-star half-martial emperors to be incomparably shocked. Using the strength of a 5-star half-martial emperor to fight against two 9-star half-martial emperors and not be defeated after several hundred exchanges. Likely, even in the entire continent, this sort of battle achievement was impossible. However, today, something that was absolutely impossible to happen had truly appeared before their eyes. Clang! After another intense collision, Xiao Yan's figure rapidly retreated 100 feet. Unable to help it, he vomited a mouthful of dark red blood. After several hundred exchanges of intense collisions, Xiao Yan's body had already suffered quite a bit of injuries. Facing two 9-star half-martial emperors, Xiao Yan was truly powerless. Raising his head, Xiao Yan looked to the opposite side. Xionggang was currently brandishing his bear claws and charging toward him once again. As for Tianying, one hand was behind his back, while the other hand was controlling the transparent long sword. His gaze was fixed on Xiao Yan, and he once again said in a deep voice, "Brat, you can only blame yourself for today's matter. We've already given you a chance. Unfortunately, you still refuse to listen to our advice." Cough cough. After violently coughing a few times, Xiao Yan's face revealed a sinister smile. With a flip of his palm, two jade bottles appeared in Xiao Yan's palm in a flash. Without the slightest hesitation, Xiao Yan swallowed the two medicinal pellets in one gulp. The bloody and sweet smell of the medicinal pellets, together with the medicinal fragrance of the medicinal pellets, caused a strange taste to spread in Xiao Yan's mouth at the same time as Xiao Yan swallowed the medicinal pellets. The medicinal pellets melted the moment they entered his mouth, turning into two streams of warm medicinal power that rapidly entered Xiao Yan's body through his throat. Under the effect of the heavenly flame, the medicinal power rapidly spread throughout Xiao Yan's entire body. Immediately, a warm feeling enveloped Xiao Yan's entire body. At this moment, the injuries on his body were also rapidly recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. In a short moment, Xiao Yan's aura had already stabilized once again. Seeing this scene, Tianying could not help but frown. As for Xiao Yan, he had already straightened his chest once again. Sensing the rapidly recovering injuries in his body, a solemn expression once again returned to his face. Facing a 9-star half-martial emperor, he could not afford to be the slightest bit careless. After taking a deep breath, Xiao Yan withdrew his gaze. His hands slowly moved to his chest. His 10 fingers moved together, and numerous complicated hand seals were skillfully performed by Xiao Yan. At the same time, the aura within Xiao Yan's body also rapidly rose. Chapter 432. As Xiao Yan's hands swiftly formed some seals, Tianying saw an ancient symbol slowly appear between Xiao Yan's brows. An ancient aura slowly spread from the clan tattoo. Xiao Yan's strength had actually soared to the frightening level of a 6-star half-D. Clan tattoo appear. With a low cry, Xiao Yan borrowed the medicinal pill and the clan tattoo in his body to allow his strength to once again return to its peak condition within a short period of time. However, this did not last for long. Just what kind of secret technique did he use? How was it able to raise his strength by an entire star? At this moment, even Xionggang, who had a calm expression, could not help but exclaim at Xiao Yan. He had never seen a secret technique that was actually this powerful. Yes, if it was a high-tier secret technique, it would indeed be able to reach this level. However, this brat clearly does not possess such a thing. Moreover, the symbol between his brows does not appear to be something that an ordinary secret technique can agglomerate. From the aura within it, it should be something that some ancient faction possesses. Tianying's expression was solemn as he spoke. If this Xiao Yan in front of them was really a disciple of some ancient faction, his identity would be somewhat unusual. He possessed the strength of a half-D at such a young age. It was difficult to imagine just how strong the faction behind him was. It was likely that even an elite Do-D would only be at the middle to lower tier within that faction. Ancient faction. You mean that this brat's identity is not ordinary? Xionggang frowned. If this was really the case, it was likely that their Shilin mountain range would suffer a storm-like attack if they were to kill Xiao Yan today. The foundation of a true ancient faction was not something that they could easily withstand. Even an elite Do-D would similarly be an ant-like existence in front of such a faction. What should we do? We cannot kill him. Do we really have to allow him to enter? The hinterland of the Shilin mountain range does not allow anyone to enter.
If anything happens to him after he enters, the consequences are something that neither of us can bear.
Xionggang paused.
His eyes were solemn as he looked at Sky Eagle and said in a grave tone,
Of course I know that. Don't worry, the rules can't be changed. No matter what, we can't let him in. Let's chase him out. If he still doesn't give up, then he can't blame us.
Tianying narrowed his eyes and stared intently at Xiao Yan. It was a long while later before he finally spoke in a deep voice. Sky Eagle's wrist shook violently and the formless longsword immediately split apart in the void. In the blink of an eye, dozens of formless swords were formed in the void in front of Sky Eagle.
On the other side, Xionggang also clenched his fists.
The rock bear claw exploded with a bang and turned into a huge stone axe, which Xionggang once again held in his hand.
Upon seeing this, Xiao Yan's eyes narrowed. His fair hand grabbed the heavy Xian ruler beside him.
As he lifted his gaze, a powerful aura spread out from his body.
Flame domain.
Open. Xiao Yan let out a loud cry. Immediately, a brilliant, heavenly flame swept out in all directions from under Xiao Yan's feet, enveloping the entire battleground within it. As the heavenly flame swept out, a frighteningly high temperature immediately enveloped the bodies of the few people present.
Under this frightening temperature, even the empty space became distorted.
The breathing of the three of them also unknowingly became a little rough.
Hey, good lad.
With the help of the heavenly flame, his domain far surpasses other people of the same level.
Humph, domain. This old Xiong hasn't used it for a long time. Let's give it a try today.
Wind domain.
Rock domain.
Following two earth-shaking roars, two completely different domain auras spread out from under Sky Eagle's and Xiongang's feet at this moment. They viciously collided with Xiao Yan's flame domain.
Bang!
The instant the domains collided, an intense bang resounded across the sky. Domain was a skill of a half-emperor. The strength of the domain naturally represented the strength of the half-emperor. At this moment, as Xiao Yan and Sky Eagle Xiongang's domains collided, one could tell at a glance that due to the fact that Xiao Yan's strength was weaker than the other two in front of him and the fact that the other party had joined forces, Sky Eagle's side was basically able to destroy Xiao Yan's flame domain easily. Within a short few breaths' time, Sky Eagle's flame domain was completely destroyed. The expression on Xiao Yan's face did not change even after his domain was destroyed. As the two completely different domains charged towards Xiao Yan twisted his wrist and the heavy Xian ruler appeared in his hand. With a puff sound, a heavenly flame spat out from his other hand and violently slashed across the surface of the pitch-black heavy ruler. The instant the heavy ruler was wrapped by the heavenly flame, Xiao Yan suddenly waved his large hand. The huge ruler swept out and a frightening ruler glow immediately swept across the sky. It was wrapped in a powerful force and instantly destroyed the domain that was heading towards him. After which, its might did not diminish as it continued to smash towards Sky Eagle and Xionggang.
100 sword piercing.
Mountain river splitting earth. As the explosive cry sounded, dozens of long swords were immediately controlled by Sky Eagle to violently attack Xiao Yan's attack. Xionggang also swung the huge rock axe in his hand with all his might and hacked down at Xiao Yan. In the next instant, an earth-yellow Do Chi pillar shot out. It soared with the wind and carried an extremely frightening aura. In the blink of an eye, it had already violently collided with Xiao Yan's ruler glow. Xiao Yan was ultimately no match for the two of them in a 1 versus 2 situation. Faced with the frightening Do skills of two 9-star half-emperors, Xiao Yan's ruler glow was only able to endure for a short moment before it was forcefully broken by the two powerful Do skills. After the ruler glow was broken, Xiao Yan's mouth involuntarily emitted a muffled groan. However, the expression on his face did not change at all. On the contrary, a mocking expression was revealed deep within Xiao Yan's eyes. Xiao Yan held the heavy ruler in his hand as he waved both of his arms. Numerous majestic ruler glows repeatedly shot out from the huge ruler, carrying a frightening storm. In the blink of an eye, it shattered the Do technique that the two of them had used earlier and violently smashed toward Tianying's duo who were charging over. After doing this, Xiao Yan's expression once again turned pale. He once again consumed 2D tier medicinal pills. Only then did Xiao Yan suddenly turn around and swiftly fly towards the deep regions of the mountain range. Bang! After breaking Xiao Yan's ruler glow, a cloud-like energy storm immediately swept over the place. Sky Eagle duo helplessly lost their target for a short period of time. By the time they charged out of the cloud, Xiao Yan's figure had already appeared at the edge of their sight. Brat, you actually still want to enter. Let's see where you can run to. Sky Eagle let out a low cry. His body moved and he turned around and transformed into his original form. His wings flapped and wind swept away the clouds. In the blink of an eye, Sky Eagle had already appeared at the edge of the distant sky and chased after Xiao Yan. Behind him, Xionggang glanced in the direction that Sky Eagle had chased but ignored it. Instead, he turned his gaze towards the Northern King, who was currently engaged in an intense battle with the Flame Lion. After the Sky Eagle left, the Flame Lion and Xionggang placed their attention on the Northern King. At this moment, no one noticed that in the dusky mountain forest below, there was another human figure wrapped in a black robe who was swiftly flying in another direction. When the sunlight shone through the gaps in the tree shade and shone on the young face of the black-robed person, the face that was revealed was undoubtedly Xiao Yan. The person that Sky Eagle had chased earlier was naturally Xiao Yan's avatar. Chapter 433. Bang! Sky Eagle could not help but be startled when it tore apart Xiao Yan in front of it. It could not help but feel extremely surprised in its heart. In the next instant, it saw Xiao Yan's body actually turn into a speck of light and gradually disappear into the empty space. Only then did Sky Eagle swiftly come to a realization in its heart. The Xiao Yan in front of it was not the actual body. It was merely an avatar. This good brat. He actually tricked all of us. If he is not here, then he is now. Not good. Sky Eagle's eyes suddenly widened when it thought that Xiao Yan was about to reach the inner regions of the Shilin mountain range. Its heart was greatly alarmed. After which, it suddenly lifted its head and let out an earth-shaking roar. At the same time, the Flame Lion and Xionggang also abruptly turned their heads and looked at Sky Eagle. Screech! We have all been tricked. Quickly go and find him. He may have already infiltrated into the inner regions of the Shilin mountain range. We must find him before he enters that place. Sky Eagle roared furiously. In the blink of an eye, it once again returned to its original body. Its wings suddenly flapped and a hurricane immediately whistled across the sky. Following the Sky Eagle's furious roar, countless low-level magical beasts in the forest below trembled and prostrated themselves on the ground. Faced with one of the three lords here, the Sky Eagle's fury made them feel as if they were in a cold cellar. The Flame Lion and Xionggang involuntarily frowned when they heard Sky Eagle's furious roar. Immediately, they faced each other. Both of their faces revealed a suspicious expression. After a couple of breaths, the Flame Lion's eyes looked towards the distant sky and loudly asked, "What happened? Didn't you go and chase that brat? What exactly happened? I have been tricked. The one I am chasing is a fake. His real body must have already left. If I have not guessed wrongly, he must be in this mountain range at this moment. From now on, everyone who hears this king's orders, search for him. Find that human. You must not let him enter the inner regions of Shilin." Sky Eagle's enormous body was suspended high in the sky. The words that it emitted caused the sky to tremble. The magical beasts in the mountain range below were also endlessly shocked. It was a long while later before Sky Eagle once again flapped its wings and returned to where the Flame Lion and Xionggang were. Following Sky Eagle's departure, many magical beasts in the mountain range below swiftly began to flee in all directions. They did not dare to disobey Sky Eagle's orders. The Flame Lion involuntarily frowned when he saw Sky Eagle's face. His eyes slightly rotated before asking, "What exactly happened? What's going on? Could it be that we really let that brat escape? If that's the case, we're in trouble." Hearing this, Tianning sighed deeply with a depressed expression. How could he have known that the one he had chased after was merely an incarnation? Moreover, what made him even more depressed was that the strength of the incarnation was only 1 star weaker than his actual body. The self-destruction of the incarnation had caused Tianning to suffer quite a great loss. It was precisely because of this that Tianning was so furious. What can I do? That brat is definitely not an ordinary person. Who knows what his true motive is for entering the hinterland of the Shilin mountain range? If he has any evil intentions, I'm afraid that not only you and me, even the entire Shilin mountain range will be destroyed. Seeing this, the Flame Lion helplessly shrugged his shoulders. It was impossible for him to search for someone. Soon after, he recalled the Northern King who was originally fighting against him. However, when he turned around to search for the Northern King,
he discovered that the Northern King had already taken advantage of the moment when they were distracted to escape.
Damn it! I was careless and actually forgot about that fellow. The Flame Lion's heart became even more solemn when he thought of the Northern King. The Northern King's strength was not inferior to his in the fight with the latter. Moreover, the latter's frightening puppet body was something that even he was unable to break. This caused the Flame Lion, a magical beast, to feel incomparably shocked. The Flame Lion admitted that ever since he made his debut, the only person he admired in terms of physical strength was Xionggang. Although they were both magical beasts, the latter's defensive strength far surpassed his. However, the Flame Lion had never expected that today, a puppet would possess a physical defense that was even more terrifying than Xiongang's. In addition to the puppet's terrifying strength and strange lightning power, the Flame Lion did not have the slightest doubt that in terms of strength, even Xionggang would not be able to gain an advantage if they were to go against each other. Xiao Yan helplessly shrugged his shoulders.
Since the Northern King had already left, it was likely that there would not be much meaning even if he were to go and search now.
Since Xiao Yan had ordered him to leave, he definitely had absolute confidence. It was already impossible to search now. On the other side, Xiao Yan swiftly traveled through the mountain forest. In order to avoid more trouble, he did his best to conceal his aura and flew towards the depths of the Shilin mountain range at his fastest speed. The few magical beasts that they occasionally met along the way were instantly killed by Xiao Yan. When the strength within Xiao Yan's body gradually disappeared, the aura around Xiao Yan's body also became weak.
However, at this moment, there was still quite a long way to go before Xiao Yan reached the end of the territory of these three large fellows.
This also caused Xiao Yan to be even more cautious. At this moment, if he did not go all out, it was likely that he would have to face the crazy pursuit of countless magical beasts. Once he was discovered by those three fellows, unless Guyu appeared, Xiao Yan would be forced to leave the Shilin mountain range. In the following period of time, Xiao Yan even avoided the magical beasts that passed by in order to avoid being discovered by the Sky Eagle trio. Helplessly, this was the only way to remove some unnecessary trouble for Xiao Yan. Otherwise, it would not be a good thing for Xiao Yan if this continued to drag on. After all, even Xiao Yan at his peak was no match for the three of them, much less now. Once he met those three fellows again, it would be difficult for Xiao Yan to escape even if he wanted to.
Swoosh! As the sharp sound of rushing wind appeared, Xiao Yan could clearly sense that there was a person swiftly approaching from behind him. However, the corner of Xiao Yan's mouth finally revealed a slight smile in the face of this. This person who had arrived was the Northern King.
Given Xiao Yan's current condition, he could only truly feel at ease when the Northern King was beside him. Xiao Yan stored the Northern King into his storage ring. At the same time, he once again consumed 2D-tier medicinal pills. Xiao Yan's expression finally turned for the better as he sensed the dou qi in his body gradually recovering. Xiao Yan's charging speed also suddenly increased following the recovery of his dou qi. Finally, the medicinal pills in his body were once again completely exhausted. Xiao Yan could see a white snowy peak that stood deep within the Shilin mountain range like a city wall at the edge of Xiao Yan's sight. Chapter 434. In the depths of the Shilin mountain range, there was a row of tall snow-covered mountain peaks.
They were like a tall city wall that towered into the clouds and extended to the north and south until the end of one's sight.
Outside the snow-capped peak, all life had been extinguished.
The ground within a radius of several hundred meters was covered in ice and snow, and the sky was shrouded in a dense white mist.
The entire world had turned white, and a bone-chilling coldness permeated the air, making it extremely difficult to breathe. At this moment, Xiao Yan was walking on the snow-covered mountain with a puzzled expression. Each step he took would emit a creaking sound. The scene in front of him caused Xiao Yan to feel curious. Why was the world here different from the outside world? The world was cold and Xiao Yan had no choice but to release the heavenly flame in his body. Only by doing so would Xiao Yan not feel uncomfortable. As he approached this snow-white world, Xiao Yan only felt that the light in the world had also become slightly dimmer. With a flick of his finger, a couple of brilliant heavenly flames immediately shot out. Each of them were suspended around Xiao Yan's body, illuminating the world for him. At the same time, the snow in front of his feet also melted, revealing the icy cold rocks under the snow. This place is the hinterland of the Shilin mountain range? I didn't expect it to be like this. Xiao Yan's eyes revealed some doubt. He did not expect that this dead land was actually the hinterland of the Shilin mountain range that everyone was most curious about. It was likely that no one would visit such a place covered in ice and snow. Although he thought in this way in his heart, Xiao Yan still released his spiritual strength to investigate the snow region within 1,000 feet radius. Before he understood the real situation of this foreign place, Xiao Yan did not dare to jump to a conclusion. After all, who knew if there were any frightening magical beasts existing in this strange place? Moreover, based on the so-called rules that the three fellows outside had mentioned, they were not the true overlord-class existences within the Shilin mountain range. Therefore, although this place appeared to be desolate and empty, it was possible that there was a terrifying Do D-class magical beast spying on Xiao Yan from the depths of this snowy mountain range. With this thought in mind, caution immediately rose in Xiao Yan's heart. No matter where one went, the unknown was the most frightening. And the hinterland of the Shilin mountain range was an even more dangerous place for Xiao Yan. Old Bone, what do you think of this place? Xiao Yan quietly asked Guyu in his body during the journey.
Yes, this old man has indeed discovered something.
However, it is still too early to talk about it now. However, this old man advises you to turn around and return. I'm afraid this is not a place you can enter for the time being. Guyu nodded upon hearing Xiao Yan's words. The words in his mouth surprised Xiao Yan. Guyu had never objected to Xiao Yan during their journey to the Shilin mountain range. At this moment, however, Guyu's words caused Xiao Yan to feel a little surprised. Old Bone, what do you mean by this? Could it be that there is a Do D-class magical beast nearby? The expression on Xiao Yan's face became anxious after his words sounded. A thought passed through his heart and the Northern King immediately appeared by his side. It was constantly vigilant of its surroundings. No, this old man is not referring to this. I am referring to another matter. Even if there is no Do D, it is likely that you will not be able to overcome this.
Guyu shook his head and replied.
Ha! Xiao Yan frowned.
He was just about to open his mouth to inquire when Guyu stopped him with a single sentence.
Let's leave first. You will naturally understand once we reach the place.
At that time, it is likely that it will not be up to you even if you do not wish to return. Guyu once again returned to silence after his words sounded.
He ignored Xiao Yan regardless of how he asked.
Xiao Yan involuntarily felt a little doubtful in his heart.
He helplessly curled his mouth and moved his feet. He continued to slowly walk forward. Xiao Yan walked for a long time along this path.
When he once again lifted his head to look above, the sky had become completely dark with the exception of a firelight above his head.
The surrounding temperature had also become increasingly cold. Clearly, time had swiftly flowed by and night had once again arrived.
Xiao Yan involuntarily frowned as he sensed the cold aura around him.
This interior of Shilin was really strange. The temperature here was many times lower than an ordinary winter.
Even his heavenly flame was unable to completely nullify the cold aura. From this, one could tell just how frighteningly dark and cold the temperature of this place was.
Hoo.
At a certain moment, a cluster of heavenly flame, which was originally a short distance in front of Xiao Yan, was actually forcefully extinguished by a cold wind.
Xiao Yan's heart was greatly startled when he saw this scene. Who could have imagined that the most violent energy in the world, a heavenly flame, would actually be forcefully extinguished by a cold wind?
The cold wind's strength did not diminish even after the heavenly flame was extinguished.
It whistled past and headed straight for Xiao Yan.
Before the cold wind arrived in front of him, Xiao Yan had already sensed the frighteningly low temperature being emitted from it. In front of this frighteningly low temperature, it was likely that an ordinary Ban Emperor would be completely frozen into an ice cube within an instant.
The expression on Xiao Yan's face immediately became grave when he thought of this.
He widened his mouth and a brilliant heavenly flame was immediately spat out.
It turned into a frightening heavenly flame light pillar.
It was accompanied by a frighteningly high temperature as it violently charged at the cold wind that was heading towards him.
Chi! This time around, with Xiao Yan personally unleashing the heavenly flame, how could the wisp of flame seedling from earlier compare with its strength?
In the blink of an eye, it easily broke through the cold wind until it reached the deepest part.
After breaking the few cold winds that came later, Xiao Yan finally unleashed the heavenly flame to wrap around his body. His footsteps were firm as he strode toward the deepest part. This time around, Xiao Yan's expression did not change even a little in the face of the cold wind.
He allowed the cold wind to blow on his body. However, with the heavenly flame in front of him this time around, any cold wind that attacked him would be instantly destroyed by the heavenly flame. Looking from a distance, despite being covered by clouds, one could still vaguely see a cluster of somewhat blurry fire swiftly moving forward in the dark night.
Occasionally, a large fire would rise high, causing this part of the world to become brightly lit.
After a long while, Xiao Yan, who originally did not stop, once again paused. His face appeared somewhat pale under the heavenly flame. Even his breathing had begun to become difficult. At the same time that Xiao Yan paused his footsteps, a slope that was paved with cold ice appeared a short distance in front of him. Wave after wave of frightening cold wind was blowing from the top of this road with a hoo-hoo sound, much like the roar of the underworld.
Chapter 435.
Huff, huff, huff. The frightening cold wind was just like numerous icy sharp blades as it ferociously attacked Xiao Yan with a piercing sound.
Upon seeing this, Xiao Yan's eyebrows involuntarily knitted together. He abruptly clenched his fist and the pitch-black heavy Xian ruler immediately appeared in his palm.
The huge ruler followed the movement of his arm and viciously swung out, shattering the incoming cold wind with a single blow.
Crack, crack. However, the instant the cold wind was broken, a layer of solid ice swiftly covered the huge ruler in Xiao Yan's hand. Ah! Upon seeing this scene, Xiao Yan's heart was slightly shocked. He did not expect that the cold wind would actually become even more intense. With just a single blow, his heavy Xian ruler had been sealed in ice. Damn it! This cold wind is really strange. If this continues, I'm afraid that I really won't be able to pass through this place.
The hand holding the heavy Xian ruler exerted a little force as a magnificent heavenly flame immediately lingered on it.
Following the appearance of the heavenly flame, the thick layer of solid ice on the heavy Xian ruler swiftly melted at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, on the opposite side of Xiao Yan, at the top of the slope, a frightening cold wind once again attacked. Damn it! With the experience from earlier, Xiao Yan's heart did not dare to be careless at this moment. A thought passed through his heart and the heavenly flame covered the entire enormous ruler.
His arm was suddenly waved and a red glow violently smashed toward the cold wind that was heading toward him.
Bang! The cold wind dissipated with a sound. This time, the cold wind did not approach Xiao Yan and Xiao Yan was finally able to take a few steps forward. However, following closely, the piercing cold wind once again attacked. This cold wind seemed to be endless. However many times Xiao Yan broke through, it would come again. This caused Xiao Yan's expression to involuntarily change slightly.
If this continued, he was afraid that he would not even be able to see the true appearance of this hinterland, let alone pass through this place.
Damn it! I must forcefully pass through this place. Otherwise, I can only stop here today. As this thought flashed across his heart, Xiao Yan fiercely inhaled a deep breath of air. He gathered his strength and swiftly stepped forward. At the same time, his hand tightly gripped the heavy Xian ruler and his knuckles emitted a slight creaking sound.
When the cold wind arrived, the huge ruler in Xiao Yan's hand, which was wrapped by the heavenly flame, was once again swung and shattered the cold wind.
Break! Break! Break!
Following the furious cries that were spat out from Xiao Yan's mouth time and time again, the cold wind that repeatedly assaulted him also shattered. However, the closer he got to the top of the slope, the more Xiao Yan felt that it was strenuous. The strength of the cold wind also appeared to be repeatedly increasing. Each time he attacked, the strength that he had to use was also repeatedly increasing. In the end, Xiao Yan had no choice but to use a Do technique in order to forcefully shatter the cold wind that was coming at him. Ha! Xiao Yan paused at the same spot for a few seconds. Just as he was about to take another step forward, he suddenly realized that his ankle had unknowingly been covered by ice. At the same time, Xiao Yan realized that goose feather-like snow had unknowingly begun to fall from the sky. Ha! Xiao Yan's body suddenly shook and forcefully shattered the ice that covered his feet. Xiao Yan once again took a step forward. The heavy Xian ruler in his hand continued to be waved. However, as the cold wind around him became increasingly intense, even though Xiao Yan had already used all his strength, the speed at which he moved forward had unknowingly become increasingly slow.
At this moment, even though Xiao Yan had the heavenly flame protecting his body, he could not help but feel the terrifyingly low temperature between heaven and earth. While this caused his body to feel cold, his heart also involuntarily felt an icy chill. The strange temperature of this place actually caused Xiao Yan, who had never been afraid of water or ice, to feel a sense of fear. However, the more this was the case, the more unwilling Xiao Yan felt in his heart. He tightly gripped the heavy Xian ruler with both hands and ruthlessly inserted it into the layer of ice beside his feet. His entire body was wrapped in the heavenly flame, as he leaned on the heavy Xian ruler with great difficulty and sat down. The cold wind was blocked by the heavy body of the heavy Xian ruler. Xiao Yan swiftly consumed 2 D-tier medicinal pills. He sensed the warm feeling that was brought about when the medicinal pills entered his body. Finally, he involuntarily let out a long sigh of relief. It was a long while later before he finally opened his mouth to ask Gu Yu, who was within his body, with great difficulty.
Old Gu, do you know what this damn thing is?
The old me has some understanding. Gu Yu's voice sounded in Xiao Yan's heart. His voice was calm and did not contain the slightest ripple. However, it gave Xiao Yan a bad premonition when he heard it.
In that case, can you please? No, it's better for you to settle this matter yourself. I've already advised you to go back the way you came, but you didn't listen.
The current situation can be considered as you reap what you sow. Gu Yu retorted without giving Xiao Yan any opportunity. However, you should also be aware that I must leave from here. There is no other path I can take.
Xiao Yan spoke in a deep voice.
That was in the past. However, it is different now. The time has yet to arrive.
It is impossible for you to rely on your own strength to leave this place unless you force the old me to act. Xiao Yan finally became quiet after these words sounded.
Gu Yu had already made things very clear.
It was impossible for him to rely on Gu Yu's strength.
The only person he could rely on now was himself.
In that case, even if I have to fight until the end, I will definitely see just what the interior of the Shilin mountain range looks like.
Xiao Yan, who had his back leaning on the heavy Xian ruler, suddenly stood up after his unresigned cry sounded. At the same time his hand, which was wrapped in a heavenly flame, suddenly grabbed the huge ruler. He pulled it with great force and the hard ice covering the huge ruler immediately shattered.
Break!
Xiao Yan held the enormous ruler in his hand. A heavenly flame flew over his body as he suddenly used the sky extinction step under his feet. The enormous ruler danced above his head before it was violently swung down. The majestic ruler glow appeared exceptionally glaring in this world of ice and snow. It used a truly unstoppable momentum to completely destroy the cold wind that was pouncing over. Xiao Yan's body moved and he quickly followed the ruler glow that shot out in front of him. His body had already reached the top of the slope before the ruler glow scattered. He was merely 100 feet from the top. 7 sky-breaking ruler.
Break for me!
The cry sounded and the 7 feet overlapped. A third of the Do Qi in the vortex within Xiao Yan's body was instantly drawn away. The strength of this ruler glow was also frighteningly strong. The instant the majestic ruler glow shot out, the frightening remnant force tore apart the hard ice in front of Xiao Yan. Numerous crack lines swiftly spread apart. The ruler glow carried an extremely frightening energy storm as it completely destroyed this section of the slope. Even the thick mountain rocks under the cold ice were forcefully shattered.
Rumble!
Following the landing of this attack, the hard ice under Xiao Yan's feet also shattered. Not only that, even the area of ice where Xiao Yan was at this moment suddenly began to shake intensely. Xiao Yan's heart immediately focused when he sensed this scene. His body moved and he swiftly withdrew explosively to the back. At the same time, the world of ice below also swiftly began to collapse. A moment later, the original slope no longer existed. Replacing it was an enormous deep ravine.
Wave after wave of cold wind that was even more frightening than before was rushing out from the source of the deep ravine with a hoo-hoo sound.
The color of the world also changed at this moment. At the same time, the expressions of the Sky Eagle trio deep within the Shilin mountain range also changed drastically. Chapter 436. Deep within the Shilin mountain range, Tianying stood in the sky. Yan Shi and Tianying swiftly flew up from below and arrived in front of Tianying. What's going on? What happened?
Before he arrived, his somewhat solemn voice was already transmitted over in a vast and mighty manner, causing the empty space to continuously tremble.
I cannot be certain. However, from the commotion earlier, this matter is likely not small. Moreover, there is an 80 to 90% chance that it was done by that human. Tianying's brows were tightly knitted together. A sharp glint shot out from his blue eyes. Ever since Xiao Yan had escaped, he had become completely serious about this stranger.
Although the other party's strength could not be compared to them, regardless of whether it was in terms of tactics or fighting strength,
The other party was not much weaker than them.
If they did not treat him seriously, it was very likely that they would fail miserably. Humph, looking at this direction, it is due west. That brat should have reached the eastern wall. Let me take a look. Standing in the air, Xionggang gazed at the western horizon. Due to the distance, he was unable to see anything clearly. As a result, Xionggang said something casually to the two people beside him before closing his eyes.
With a wave of his hand, an earthen yellow light immediately shot into the ground below, vanishing in the blink of an eye.
Buzz, buzz, buzz. As the strange light entered the ground, the activity under the surface of the ground within the three people's domain appeared in Xiongang's mind. The strange crystal medicinal ingredients that contained energy under the ground were all reflected in Xiongang's mind. This is... Haha, unexpectedly. He has already touched the edge of the Great Way of Earth.
From the looks of it, it should not be long before he can truly control the Great Way of Earth.
Yan Shi's expression was stunned as he vaguely spat out some words from his mouth. However, Tianing continued after the latter's words. The flesh on Yan Shi's face involuntarily trembled when he heard this.
He did not expect that the first person to comprehend the Great Way of Earth among the three of them would actually be this big fool.
Yan Shi unwillingly curled his lips as he quietly muttered in his heart. At the same time, he shifted his gaze away from Xionggang. On the other hand, Tianing once again looked towards the western horizon. The energy explosion earlier caused Tianing to feel a little uneasy in his heart. He could only hope that the outcome was not as he had imagined. Otherwise, there would be great trouble. After taking a deep breath, Sky Eagle slowly withdrew his gaze. Before Xionggang woke up, he could only wait here quietly. A cool breeze blew across the empty sky, easing the slightly oppressive atmosphere. The Flame Lion and the Sky Eagle looked at each other. Both of them seemed to be thinking about something in their hearts. However, in the end, they remained silent. Time slowly passed. 15 minutes later, Xionggang, who originally had his eyes shut, suddenly opened them. He abruptly lifted his head, and a pair of earthen yellow eyes instantly widened as he looked towards the western horizon. His eyes were filled with shock. How is this possible? Sky Eagle and Flame Lion swiftly recovered after Xiongang's words sounded. They lifted their eyes and hurriedly looked at Xionggang. The emotions in Sky Eagle's heart had also become increasingly uneasy at this moment. What did you see? What exactly happened over there? Although the Flame Lion already had some guesses in his heart, he still could not help but ask Xionggang. At the same time, Sky Eagle's eyes also shot towards Xionggang. The heart in his chest was beating rapidly, and the emotions in his heart had also become extremely anxious. Damn it! It's the Eastern Wall. Something has indeed happened to the Eastern Wall. The expressions on Sky Eagle's and the Flame Lion's faces suddenly changed drastically after Sky Eagle's words sounded. The two of them did not have the mood to ask any more questions. Their bodies suddenly turned around, and at the same time, the three of them transformed into their original bodies. With their fastest speed, they swiftly flew in the direction where Xiao Yan was currently located. On the other side, Xiao Yan's eyes were extremely grave as he looked at the deep gully in front of him. His heart was filled with shock. At this moment, there was a deep gully that was nearly 1,000 feet wide in front of Xiao Yan. It was emitting waves of frightening cold wind. The frighteningly low temperature caused everything around him to be frozen in an instant. Xiao Yan had to rely on the might of the heavenly flame to barely stabilize his body. The frightening wind pressure almost blew Xiao Yan away. However, Xiao Yan carried the unwillingness in his heart as he relied on the Sky Absolute steps to forcefully remain in this empty space. He was unwilling to retreat, and was unable to advance even an inch. The deep gully was very long, and it reached deep into the hinterland. From Xiao Yan's current position, this deep gully was just like a huge crack that forcefully broke the tall mountain peaks on both sides. Under the deep gully, a blue light that was like deep water was emitted. Under the reflection of the ice crystals, it illuminated the entire area hundreds of feet below the deep gully. However, at this moment, Xiao Yan did not have the mood to bother about the strange scenery of this deep gully. He only wanted to use all his strength to charge through the air above this strange deep gully. Although the Sky Absolute Steps was a human-class agility do technique, it was likely due to Xiao Yan's current lack of strength. Even though Xiao Yan used all his strength, he was unable to reach the middle of this deep gully. Even though he had various powerful do techniques, Xiao Yan was still blocked in the end.
Damn it!
Seeing the heavenly flame armor that was gradually becoming thinner under the intense cold wind, Xiao Yan could not help but curse furiously in his heart. The dark black heavy Xian ruler was violently waved in Xiao Yan's hand. Numerous Do techniques were continuously displayed by Xiao Yan, using all his strength to block the frightening cold wind that was being spat out from the deep gully below. However, even though Xiao Yan used all his skills, he still had difficulty being a match for this cold wind. A moment later, the heavenly flame on Xiao Yan's leg was actually forcefully scattered by the cold wind, revealing the bottom of Xiao Yan's shoe. In the blink of an eye, the frightening cold wind attacked and completely sealed Xiao Yan's calf with ice.
Damn it! Get lost!
Seeing this scene, Xiao Yan's heart immediately became furious.
He let out a furious cry and his body shook violently.
The hard ice that wrapped around Xiao Yan's calf immediately burst apart. At the same time, Xiao Yan clenched both of his fists tightly. A heavenly flame flowed deep within his dark black eyes. A purple-gold unusual glow flickered slightly. Immediately, the dragon phoenix bloodline within the blood vessels in Xiao Yan's body was completely activated at this moment.
Roar!
An earth-shaking furious roar was suddenly emitted. The entire place shook as a wild and violent energy swept out from Xiao Yan's body at this moment. It forcefully broke the cold wind that was continuously attacking Xiao Yan. A sharp golden light shot out from both of Xiao Yan's eyes. His entire body was covered with dragon scales. The frightening defensive strength of the dragon phoenix ancient armor was completely revealed at this moment. Additionally, there was the protection of the heavenly flame. The cold wind was unable to get within 10 feet of Xiao Yan. With the help of the dragon phoenix bloodline that had been activated in his body, Xiao Yan immediately felt the cold wind that was blowing on his body become much weaker. With a cold snort, he took a couple of large strides forward. Stepping on the cold wind, he arrived at the middle of the deep gully. Chapter 437.
Ha!
Golden light shot out from Xiao Yan's eyes.
Heavenly flames surged all over his body.
His feet stepped on the cold wind as he walked towards the depths of the deep ravine.
Huff, huff, huff!
As Xiao Yan took each step forward, the cold wind that blew from the deep ravine below became increasingly terrifying. After Xiao Yan took his 100th step, the cold wind that gushed out like a fountain once again caused Xiao Yan to feel a strong pressure. Even Xiao Yan's body, which was standing in the air, could not help but sway slightly.
Damn it!
The closer I get to the center, the more terrifying the wind pressure is. If this continues, I'm afraid that even the Dragon Phoenix ancient armor will not be able to withstand it. As he felt the cold wind around him becoming stronger and stronger, in addition to the energy that was rapidly draining from his body, Xiao Yan could not help but feel a sense of seriousness in his heart. A moment later, when Xiao Yan forcefully endured the wind pressure and was about to take another half a step forward, the terrifying wind pressure caused Xiao Yan's body to fly back uncontrollably. He only managed to stop his body with great difficulty after he was 1,000 feet away. After stopping his body, Xiao Yan raised his head with a grave expression. His gaze swept across the sky above, only to discover that one night had unknowingly passed. The black fog that originally covered this world had gradually turned white. Xiao Yan knit his brows and exhaled a deep breath of air. He was just about to charge forward when his expression suddenly changed the next moment when Xiao Yan was about to move. In his spiritual perception, there were 3 extremely terrifying auras that were swiftly flying towards him. Looking at this aura, it was likely that they would appear in front of him in a short while.
Xiao Yan did not doubt the owners of these 3 auras.
These 3 people were definitely the 3 overlords in the depths of the Shilin mountain range: Tianying, Flame Lion and Xionggang.
Damn it!
How did you catch up so quickly? Aware of the 3 people behind him, the expression on Xiao Yan's face changed again. He cursed in his heart. His slightly weak body suddenly shook, and the Vajra glass body was instantly displayed. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Yan had once again turned into a Vajra giant god. His huge feet stomped on the void, and he rushed forward with all his strength. At the same time that Xiao Yan sensed the 3 of them, the Sky Eagle trio behind Xiao Yan also sensed Xiao Yan's aura. Immediately, a furious expression involuntarily appeared on their faces.
Bastard!
It's actually this brat's fault.
It's too late to regret now. Let's hurry over.
I hope this matter won't be difficult to resolve. Otherwise, I'll definitely break that kid's bones. The Sky Eagle's tone was extremely furious when the Flame Lion's furious curse sounded. As for Xionggang, although he did not say anything, his expression was extremely gloomy.
It was obvious that the anger in his heart was no less than the two beside him.
A moment later, the three figures had already arrived in front of the deep gorge. Xiao Yan was also extremely unlucky. He was coincidentally sent back by the cold wind. However, he was helpless. Who asked the cold wind to be so terrifyingly strong? Even though Xiao Yan used all his strength, he was ultimately unable to pass through it. He could only be blown back time and time again with each charge. This time around, he coincidentally met the Sky Eagle trio who had just arrived.
After the gazes of the three of them swept over Xiao Yan's body, they landed on the deep gorge below which one could not see the end. Xiao Yan sensed the gazes of the three of them which seemed to want to devour him.
His back involuntarily felt a chill. His footsteps withdrew a little in an undetectable manner. The heavy Xian ruler had also unknowingly appeared in the palm of Xiao Yan's back. When they saw the enormous deep gorge in front of them, the trio's pupils suddenly shrunk to the size of a needle tip. Their three faces instantly became gloomy. The enormous deep gorge in front of them had clearly far exceeded their expectations. If this deep gorge was described as a small stream in their imagination, then what appeared in front of them was a wide river. The cold wind that gushed out from it was just like a torrential flood that could not be stopped.
Brat! Did you do all this?
The flame lion's furious eyes were wide open as he stared at Xiao Yan. His voice was nearly hoarse as he spoke.
If I said no, would you believe me?
Xiao Yan helplessly shrugged his shoulders. He did not deny this.
Brat! You're really courting death.
You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit.
You will stay here today.
The flame lion angrily rebuked. His voice sounded just like the roar of a beast. After his voice sounded, the flame lion's body suddenly shot towards Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan held the heavy ruler in his hand.
His enormous golden body suddenly turned on the spot, and with a flip of his hand, he viciously swung his ruler at the flame lion.
Flame-splitting tsunami.
Lion Dipper Fist. The two of them roared furiously in unison. In the blink of an eye, they had already collided. The frightening energy shockwave instantly destroyed the cold wind. The sky where the two of them were located also obtained a trace of tranquility in this short instant. After the attack landed, the flame lion forcefully twisted his body in the air. Soon after, a punch was thrown once again.
At the same time, the heavy ruler in Xiao Yan's hand was accompanied by a biting cold wind pressure as it collided with the incoming flame lion.
Roar!
Just as Xiao Yan was intensely colliding with the flame lion, Xionggang, who was behind him, suddenly emitted an earth-shaking roar. He waved his enormous fists. Like a charging bull, he carried an extremely overbearing power as he charged straight towards Xiao Yan. After merely a few collisions, Xiao Yan was clearly at a disadvantage. However, this was still not enough. Just as Xiao Yan was bitterly enduring, Tianying on the other side also moved. The sword light in his hand was sharp as it ruthlessly charged towards Xiao Yan. 1 against 3 9-star half-emperors. The situation of the battlefield instantly changed. With the addition of Tianying, Xiao Yan immediately felt a great increase in pressure. Helplessly, he could only use the 6 corporeal forms to defend himself from all directions. He was completely powerless to retaliate.
Humph! Brat, I have already told you to leave but you refuse to listen.
Since you are unwilling to leave, then you can stay here forever. Every attack of the flame lion was ruthless. Every punch and palm was a fatal attack. Xiongang's iron fists were as hard as rocks and indestructible. The frightening power caused Xiao Yan's hand, which was holding the heavy Xian ruler, to feel numb. The movements of his hand also gradually became slower. Tianying's attacks caused Xiao Yan to not dare to be the slightest bit careless. Given the latter's sharp attacks, once a flaw appeared in Xiao Yan's 6 corporeal forms, the latter would seize the opportunity to injure Xiao Yan in one strike.
Bang!
In the end, in the endless bitter battle, Xiao Yan was still the first to be defeated helplessly. The 6 corporeal forms was forcefully broken by the flame lion and Xiongang's attacks. Without the protection of the 6 corporeal forms, Tianying's long sword immediately found an opening. In the blink of an eye, a few holes were formed on Xiao Yan's body by the invisible long sword. Fresh bright red blood immediately shot out. Xiao Yan's face also suddenly turned swollen red. With a grug sound, a large mouthful of fresh blood was involuntarily spat out. The aura of his entire body also suddenly weakened.
At the same time that Xiao Yan's body was sent flying, the frightening cold wind behind Xiao Yan was like a sharp blade.
It once again ruthlessly smashed onto Xiao Yan's back.
After this attack landed, the strength in Xiao Yan's body increased by several times.
Immediately, he was seriously injured.
Grug! A large mouthful of fresh blood was wildly spat out. Xiao Yan's entire body revealed a kind of grayish-white color like that of a dead person. His thin body finally fell uncontrollably towards the deep gorge below. Seeing this, the flame lion wanted to give chase and give Xiao Yan a final blow. However, Tianying by the side stopped him and said, "Enough. Let's settle the score with him after we settle this problem. The most important thing now is this gap." After his words sounded, Tianying looked at Xionggang by the side, only to discover that the latter was actually looking at the deep gorge below with a suspicious expression. Other than the seriousness in his eyes, there was also a strange expression.
Aren't we being too subjective? Chapter 438.
2 months later, at the outskirts of the Shilin mountain range, Xiao Yan carried the dark heavy buster sword on his back as he flew through the forest at an extremely fast speed. Every time he paused in the air, he would leave behind a solid afterimage. As numerous afterimages appeared one after another, the dense forest behind Xiao Yan was suddenly destroyed by a terrifying force. Immediately after, a huge magical beast chased after Xiao Yan furiously with boundless killing intent. The afterimages along the way were mercilessly torn apart by its sharp horns.
Bastard brat! Quickly return my green Ganoderma to me.
The huge magical beast, whose body was like a small mountain, charged forward recklessly. As it charged forward, it could not help but let out a sorrowful and angry howl. Ever since the human in front of it stole its green Ganoderma a week ago, not only did the human in front of it not leave, but he used the green Ganoderma as a lure to purposely make it fly into a rage.
It chased after Xiao Yan day and night.
However, in the end, due to Xiao Yan's extraordinary speed, the distance between them would be instantly widened by Xiao Yan at the most crucial moment. As for the magical beast, it could only helplessly retreat with a heart full of anger. This matter caused the magical beast to be furious, but at the same time, it also felt a sense of sadness. It really did not know who it had offended in its previous life to meet such a hateful person.
Hee, if you want your green Ganoderma back, then chase after me.
As long as you can catch up with me, not only will I return the green Ganoderma to you, I will also give you an Emperor-grade elixir.
Xiao Yan laughed as the huge magical beast spoke.
Instead, he used the Emperor-grade elixir to tempt the magical beast behind him. In the big battle 2 months ago, Xiao Yan was naturally defeated by the Sky Eagle trio. The seriously injured Xiao Yan's body fell uncontrollably towards the deep ravine below. At the last moment before Xiao Yan lost consciousness, he thought that he would fall into the deep ravine. However, he did not expect Guyu to act in time. While the Sky Eagle trio's attention was focused on the deep ravine, Guyu swiftly controlled Xiao Yan's body and left that place. Ever since he had experienced that incident, Xiao Yan had also clearly sensed where he was lacking. Given Xiao Yan's current overall fighting strength, he could already fight against an 8-star half-emperor in a one-on-one fight. As for a 9-star half-emperor, it would be difficult for Xiao Yan. Of course, one could slowly cultivate one's strength. However, Xiao Yan's Sky Annihilation steps had become a big problem. Originally, given Xiao Yan's confidence in the Sky Annihilation steps, no one under the Do D class should be able to catch up with him. However, after this incident, Xiao Yan realized that his Sky Annihilation steps was far from reaching the level that he needed.
Take Sky Eagle for example.
Even if Xiao Yan fully unleashed his Sky Annihilation steps, he would not be a match for the latter's speed. If Xiao Yan were to fight him one-on-one, Xiao Yan would not have any hope of winning without any external help. Thus, although Xiao Yan believed that his fighting strength was outstanding, it was only when compared to an 8-star half-emperor. If he were to face a 9-star half-emperor or an even more frightening Do D, Xiao Yan would be in trouble. This time around, Xiao Yan had found this sky-raising bull magical beast in hopes of being able to borrow its strength to obtain victory through speed without him launching an attack. Of course, Xiao Yan's thoughts were relaxed. However, the situation was indeed abnormally relaxed. This sky-raising bull magical beast strength had merely reached that of an 8-star half-emperor. With Xiao Yan's current speed, even an ordinary 9-star half-emperor would have difficulty catching up to him, much less this sky-raising bull magical beast. After a week of repeated boredom, at this moment, Xiao Yan was extremely stunned to realize that not only did his speed not increase in this boring chase, but the speed of the heaven-raising bull magical beast behind him was actually swiftly increasing under the drive of the fury in its heart.
This scene, which was completely different from what Xiao Yan had originally imagined, caused him to feel helpless in his heart. Xiao Yan paused and turned his head to look behind him. The sky-raising bull magical beast had once again charged over. This time around, anger rose in the sky-raising bull magical beast's heart when it saw that Xiao Yan had stopped once again. As it charged forward, its enormous body suddenly shook. A muffled thunder-like beast roar was emitted from its mouth. At the same time, its body violently charged toward Xiao Yan at its fastest speed. From the looks of it, its speed was more than twice as fast as before. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yan curled his mouth in a speechless manner. Immediately, he stepped into the air and twisted his neck. A wave of caw-caw sound of bones colliding was emitted. With a thought, Xiao Yan's skinny body turned into a giant Vajra god at the same time as he turned around. Both of his feet stepped on the ground and his enormous fist was tightly clenched. As the barbarian bull charged over, a fist was violently smashed toward the latter's head. Bang! A terrifying enormous force suddenly poured out when Xiao Yan's fist landed on the barbarian bull's head. It was like a thunderous explosion that resounded through the sky. Under Xiao Yan's punch, the sky-raising bull magical beast's charging speed was forcefully stopped. Its entire head was smashed to the ground by Xiao Yan's punch. The enormous force poured down from the barbarian bull's head to the ground. Instantly, the ground below the two of them quickly collapsed. Xiao Yan and the barbarian bull's bodies both sank. The chase between Xiao Yan and the sky-raising bull magical beast came to an end. The golden light dissipated. At the same time that Xiao Yan reverted to his original form, he could not help but exhale softly. He shook his slightly numb hand before looking at the sky-raising bull magical beast. Casually throwing a wooden box to the latter, Xiao Yan said loudly, "All right, I've returned it." "All right, I've returned it to you. I know you're fine. Get up." As Xiao Yan's voice fell, the sky-raising bull magical beast's body also squirmed. Immediately, it also turned into a human. Its upper body was naked, and a pair of slightly curved horns grew on its head. When the wooden box fell, it hurriedly caught it in its arms. After looking at the green Ganoderma inside, it looked at Xiao Yan and said angrily, "Stinking brat. First, you don't refine pills. Second, you don't buy medicine. You even snatched my treasure. Do you think I'm a monkey? And that emperor-grade medicinal pill. Hand it over to me. You said that you'll give it to me if I catch up to you." Hearing this, Xiao Yan curled his lips in a non-committal manner. He raised his gaze and looked at the sky-raising bull magical beast. He smiled and said, "I've already returned it to you. As for what I said, if I don't take the initiative to stop, do you think that you can catch up to me with your speed?" "Teske, I don't care. In any case, I've already caught up to you. You can't go back on your words." Barbarian bull spat. His face revealed a thick-skinned appearance as he said to Xiao Yan. Hearing this, Xiao Yan's eyes turned slightly. He changed his tone and said with a smile, "Okay, I can give you the medicinal pill. However, you have to answer my question first." Barbarian bull had a suspicious expression as he looked at Xiao Yan. He held the wooden box in his hands and hesitated for a moment. Only then did he nod his head and said with hatred, "Ask away." In the periphery of the Shilin mountain range, there are magical beasts that specialize in speed. Their strength is around that of a middle 8-star half-emperor. The faster, the better. Hearing this, the muscles at the corner of Barbarian Bull's mouth could not help but twitch. He could not help but curse angrily in his heart. So this guy in front of him actually wanted to use him to practice his agility-do skill. With an extremely unwilling expression, Barbarian Bull curled his lips. However, in his heart, he could not let go of the emperor-grade medicinal pill. He could only bitterly sigh in his heart. After a moment, his face revealed a pondering expression. After a moment of consideration, he said, "There is. Furthermore, its speed is frighteningly fast." Hearing this, Xiao Yan's eyes could not help but reveal a pleasantly surprised expression. He quickly asked, "Where?" "Southwest. There is a lake there. That is its territory." After Barbarian Bull finished speaking, Xiao Yan also quickly turned around and was about to fly in the direction that Barbarian Bull had mentioned. "Wait, medicinal pill.
Whoosh! Before Barbarian Bull finished speaking, a ray of light rapidly shot toward the demon-raising bull.
The latter caught it in his palm and opened it to take a look. Sure enough, it was an emperor-grade medicinal pill. When the demon-raising bull raised his head to look again, Xiao Yan had already disappeared from the sky. Seeing this, Barbarian Bull's eyes flashed.
The corners of his mouth were raised to form a ridiculing smile.
As he turned around, he said in a low voice, "Haha, how did you run so fast?
I didn't even have the time to tell you that guy's strength is that of a 9-star half-emperor."
Chapter 439. The blazing sun was like fire. It seemed as if it had burned all the clouds in the sky. At the end of the horizon, there were only a few scattered clouds floating on the ocean.
However, at this place, the sky appeared as if it had been washed away by heavy rain.
It was like a clear mirror.
Looking down from the clear sky, one would be surprised to discover that the dense forest was gradually receding. In the mountain forest below, there was actually a vast lake.
This lake extended for over 1,000 miles. The surface of the lake was calm and flawless.
The deep lake water was like a mirror that resonated with the clear weather. If one were to only look at the lake water and the sky above their heads, one would be unable to tell which was the sky and which was the lake.
Right at this moment, in the distant horizon, above the vast sea of trees, a tsunami-like hurricane suddenly appeared. It was rapidly sweeping toward this place. The hurricane swept across the horizon. The remnant might of the hurricane turned into a tall wave of trees above the sea of trees. The surging waves followed the steps of the hurricane and rapidly rushed toward the lake.
If one were to look carefully, one would see that at the forefront of the hurricane, at the forefront of the warship-like hurricane, was a black-cloaked man with a giant ruler on his back. With the hurricane above his head, he was rapidly rushing toward this place. In a short period of time, the black-cloaked man was already standing directly above the lake. Looking from between the two of them, regardless of whether it was the sky or the mirror-like lake water, Xiao Yan's figure was reflected in both. As he looked at the calm lake below, Xiao Yan's white hand slowly moved toward the ruler's hilt. The feeling that this place gave him was somewhat different.
"Heh, damned bull spirit, you actually dared to use your brain against me.
This big guy's strength is not that of an 8-star half-martial emperor."
Xiao Yan's eyes narrowed as he cursed the heaven-raising bull demonic beast from before in a low voice. However, blazing flames shot out from Xiao Yan's eyes.
Although the guy in the water was not weak, Xiao Yan had already understood his strength through the probing of his soul power.
Initial 9-star half-martial emperor. Furthermore, the Do Chi within his body was still unstable. It was as if he had just broken through to 9-star not long ago. To Xiao Yan, this was just right.
"Heh, you've truly given me a great gift."
Xiao Yan laughed in his mouth. At the same time, his arm abruptly pulled with force and the heavy Xian ruler was suddenly pulled out. A chi-chi sound of rushing wind immediately sounded. The originally calm surface of the lake below also began to form circular ripples. The ripples spread out and completely destroyed the tranquility of the lake.
"Humph!
Human! You've come to this king's territory and even pulled out your weapon. Are you trying to provoke this king?" Suddenly, a thunderous sound resounded from the bottom of the lake. At the same time, the ripples on the surface of the lake that had yet to disperse started to surge. Following a few explosive sounds, thick pillars of water soared into the sky from the surface of the lake. Soon after, an enormous conical horn rushed out from the lake. Following that, the enormous body of the demonic beast appeared. Nearly half of the demonic beast's body was exposed on the surface of the water. Its entire body looked like a huge snake. On the back of the huge snake, there was a layer of huge solid snake scales. However, the abdomen of the huge snake was different. There were many shallow gullies that went deep into the water. It looked like a whale.
The most peculiar thing was that on the head of the huge snake, there was a long horn.
Narwhal snake. Heh, I didn't expect to encounter such an ancient species here. Seeing this, Xiao Yan couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. The narwhal snake in front of him also surprised him. As a snake-type demonic beast, the narwhal snake was originally an unknown species. However, because of its single horn, this unique species gradually gained some fame among the snake-type demonic beasts. Of course, other than its single horn, the narwhal snake also possessed the ancient bloodline of the snake-type demonic beasts. Although it wasn't much, it was enough for it to have a kind of pressure when facing other snake-type demonic beasts. This point was similar to the uniqueness of Ziyan in the ancient void dragon tribe. Logically speaking, this kind of narwhal snake should have been wiped out from the snake-type demonic beast tribe thousands of years ago due to its uniqueness. However, he didn't expect to encounter it today by Xiao Yan. He didn't know if it was good luck or something else. Humph. Since you know my identity, why don't you hurry up and get lost? This king has just broken through and doesn't want to start a massacre. If you don't want to die, hurry up and get lost. Otherwise, this king will eat you up today. I'll refine you and treat you as nourishment for this king to stabilize my strength. The narwhal snake's huge blue eyes stared at Xiao Yan. Although its words were fierce, it could always feel a sense of danger from this human in front of it. This made it, who had always been cautious, couldn't help but feel wary of Xiao Yan in front of it. Haha, why are you in such a hurry to chase me away? I've only learned about the narwhal snake's name from ancient books. As for its true strength, I've never had the chance to see it. However, since I've seen it today, I naturally can't leave so easily. Therefore, I'd like to invite you to spar with me. The corner of Xiao Yan's mouth was lifted as though he had seen the fear in the other party's heart. He revealed a mocking smile. Adding this to the tone of his words, the narwhal whale snake did not dare to be careless in its heart. It immediately snorted and let out a low roar. I've said that I don't want to fight today. Hurry up and get lost. This king is going into seclusion. As it spoke, the narwhal snake's eyes that were originally staring at Xiao Yan unconsciously shifted away, as if to cover up the strange feeling in its heart. Xiao Yan didn't expect the narwhal snake to be so cowardly. He couldn't help but feel a little speechless in his heart. He curled his lips and looked at the narwhal snake with a frown. He said somewhat impatiently, "Let's cut to the chase. I'm here today to challenge you. You're at least a 9-star half-martial emperor. Why don't you dare to spar with me? A 5-star half-martial emperor. TCH, so what if I'm a 9-star half-martial emperor? A 5-star half-martial emperor like you wants to spar with me. A 9-star half-martial emperor. If you're not stupid, then you definitely have the strength to spar with you. I'd be stupid to spar with you." As Xiao Yan's words fell, the narwhal snake decisively blurted out a bunch of shameless words. This immediately made Xiao Yan feel a burst of helplessness. The speech that he had originally prepared was actually blocked by this big guy's impeccable words. After violently coughing a few times, Xiao Yan hurriedly thought of a plan in his heart. However, when he thought of it, Xiao Yan discovered that he actually couldn't do anything to this big guy in front of him. Xiao Yan didn't even have the slightest doubt that if he were to make a move now, this guy would definitely hide at the bottom of the lake without the slightest hesitation and definitely wouldn't come out again. At that time, even if Xiao Yan wanted to provoke it, it would be impossible. Curling his lips, Xiao Yan felt helpless. After thinking for a while, he helplessly smiled bitterly in his heart and said, "Sigh. Looks like I'll have to use the old method again. Cough cough, how about this? I'll bet with you. I'll use an emperor-grade medicinal pill as the wager. As long as you can catch me, I'll give you the medicinal pill." After coughing twice, Xiao Yan himself felt that the words he said were a little strange. He didn't expect that in this world, there would actually be someone who would pay to be beaten up. Chapter 440. The narwhal whale snake was involuntarily stunned when it heard the words that were emitted from Xiao Yan's mouth. These words of Xiao Yan caused it to feel as though it was facing a fool. Roar! With a low roar, the narwhal snake rolled its eyes at Xiao Yan. Then, its huge body wriggled and tried to return to the bottom of the lake. Seeing this, the muscles on Xiao Yan's face twitched violently. He gritted his teeth. Just as the narwhal snake was about to return to the bottom of the lake, Xiao Yan opened his mouth again and said in a loud voice, Two emperor-grade medicinal pills. As long as you can touch my clothes, you can have the medicinal pills." As he said this, Xiao Yan flipped his palm. 2 round medicinal pills the size of longans appeared in Xiao Yan's hand. Following the appearance of the pill, a rich pill fragrance immediately spread out in all directions. The moment the narwhal snake entered the water, it also smelled the medicinal fragrance. Immediately, its submerged body froze. Ripples of water violently surged around its body. In the next moment, the narwhal snake's submerged body suddenly rushed out of the lake. Its huge eyes were filled with desire as it stared at Xiao Yan. To be precise, it was looking at the 2 emperor-grade medicinal pills in his hand.
If it were to obtain these 2 emperor-level medicinal pellets, the narwhal snake had no doubt that its cultivation would definitely be able to completely stabilize at the early stage 9-star half-martial emperor level. Furthermore, this would undoubtedly be able to save it a very long period of time in the future.
You said it yourself. Boy, don't blame me for bullying you.
Although it could tell that Xiao Yan was extraordinary, the narwhal snake was confident that with its speed as a 9-star half-emperor, it was completely possible for it to surpass this human in front of it, whom it viewed as an ant.
Moreover, the medicinal pills were very useful to it. If it could get its hands on them, it naturally wouldn't let them go so easily. With such a simple condition, the narwhal snake naturally wouldn't waste such a good opportunity. Hee, what a money grubber. Don't worry, since I've said it, I won't go back on my words. Moreover, you can just fight with me. After all, you're a 9th-star half-martial emperor. Do you really need to be afraid of me, a 5th-star half-martial emperor? Xiao Yan's face carried a teasing smile as he spoke when he heard this. Seeing Xiao Yan's mocking expression, the narwhal snake rolled its eyes at the latter again.
Soon after, it coldly snorted and said, "Brat, the pills are ready.
I'm coming to get them." Roar.
With a loud roar, the entire lake surface started to churn violently.
Waves of shocking waves started to surge violently. The narwhal snake's enormous body also suddenly rushed into the sky. Its enormous whale-like tail carried a terrifying force as it fiercely smashed towards Xiao Yan.
And it was only at this moment that Xiao Yan was able to see the entire appearance of the big guy in front of him clearly.
The enormous snake's body was even longer than when it was exposed to the surface of the lake earlier. The snake's body was densely covered with smooth snake scales. As the snake's body twisted, dazzling rays of light were reflected. They were like sharp eyes, causing people to tremble in fear.
Humph.
Seeing this, Xiao Yan smiled in satisfaction. This was the result he wanted. Just as the huge fan-like tail was about to attack, Xiao Yan finally moved. As his body twisted, he instantly executed the sky extinction step. His pitch-black figure constantly flickered above the void, like a shadow, making it difficult for people to capture his figure. At the same time, the snake's tail that was smashing towards Xiao Yan also swept across the void, causing a gust of wind. However, it did not touch Xiao Yan's body at all. Seeing that Xiao Yan actually dodged its attack so easily, the narwhal snake could not help but reveal a hint of surprise in its eyes. It did not expect that a 5-star half-martial emperor could actually possess such speed. Although it was extremely surprised, for the sake of the 2 emperor-grade medicinal pills, the narwhal snake quickly raised the do qi in its body. Its enormous body suddenly twisted, circling left and right, forming a sphere that quickly surrounded Xiao Yan, who was constantly flashing in the void. Humph. Let's see how you're going to dodge this time. The narwhal snake roared angrily. Its body that was surrounding Xiao Yan quickly twisted, causing the narrow space within it to shrink again and again, causing Xiao Yan, who was inside, to have no way to dodge. Seeing this, Xiao Yan smiled. Taking advantage of the fact that the space around him had not been completely squeezed, Xiao Yan's hands moved quickly, forming seals one after another. At the same time, a black tent was formed in front of him. 6 Paths Tent. After shouting in his heart, Xiao Yan took a step forward. Before the terrifying pressure around him could surge, Xiao Yan's figure disappeared in an instant. Sensing that Xiao Yan's figure had disappeared, the narwhal snake suddenly exclaimed.
In the next moment, when it turned its head to look, it saw that Xiao Yan's figure had already appeared in the void behind it.
Haha, looks like this move of yours is not very effective against me. Xiao Yan chuckled and said.
The moment the narwhal snake turned its head, its eyes were filled with extreme shock.
How is this possible?
It was really difficult to imagine that this black-robed human in front of it was actually able to dodge its death entanglement, which had no gaps to speak of. It should be known that as long as one was trapped within that attack, unless one forcefully broke open the body of the narwhal snake, it would be impossible to escape.
However, how did Xiao Yan in front of it do it? Haha, nothing is impossible. Your move might work against others, but it's useless against me. Xiao Yan chuckled. He extended his index finger and gently drew across the void in front of him. Immediately after, as Xiao Yan's fingertip drew across the void, a few inches wide wormhole appeared in the void above the void. Of course, this small wormhole naturally could not do anything.
However, in the eyes of the narwhal snake, it was enough to make the latter feel extremely shocked.
This This is a spatial crack? No, this is the Void Great Way. The pupils in the narwhal snake's eyes suddenly shrank to the size of a needle tip. Its words were filled with disbelief.
Indeed, a half-emperor powerhouse could actually comprehend the power of Great Way.
This was probably something that was completely impossible in anyone's mind.
Xiaoyan smiled non-committally and did not say a word.
Kid, you cheated. The scene was silent for a moment. Then, the shocked narwhal snake suddenly spat out angrily. As its voice fell, the expression on Xiaoyan's face became one of astonishment. Immediately after, the narwhal snake continued to speak. Kid, based on the way you fight, how can I possibly touch you? With the help of the power of Great Way, you can easily dodge my attack. Are you deliberately toying with me?
Xiaoyan was stunned.
When he raised his head, he saw that this fellow was actually about to retreat into the void again. He could not help but feel helpless for this fellow's fragile heart. It was too easy to defeat him. He really did not know where the strength of a 9-star half-emperor had gone to. Cough cough, how about this? At most, I won't use my Void Great Way. Let's go. Xiaoyan curled his lips helplessly. God knew why this giant snake was so cowardly. He could only helplessly withdraw his power of Great Way again.
However, the moment Xiaoyan's words fell, the narwhal snake, who had just turned its head, suddenly let out a sinister laugh.
The moment Xiaoyan's words fell, it fiercely pounced on Xiaoyan. Chapter 441. Within the verdant mountain forest, Xiaoyan's 10 fingers were crossed as he supported the back of his head with his hands. With a lazy expression on his face, he was aimlessly walking forward. As of now, it was already difficult for him to make any further progress with the sky extinction steps. If he wanted to break through to the wind elemental realm, he could only rely on luck. As for his cultivation, Xiaoyan had already completely consolidated his cultivation at the initial stage of the 5-star half-martial emperor realm. He was only a step away from the middle stage. It was impossible for him to make a breakthrough in a short period of time. With nowhere to go and nowhere to retreat, Xiaoyan could only find a place to settle down for the time being. A long while later, Xiaoyan arrived in front of a waterfall. The rapid water flow was like a wild horse galloping as it whizzed down from the high cliff. After colliding with the protruding rocks on the cliff a couple of times, it violently smashed into a pool below, emitting a deafening loud roar. Around the pool, there was a relatively spacious open space. Xiaoyan looked over and saw that there was actually a cave beside the waterfall. The entrance of the cave wasn't very big. It was only big enough for 4 people to enter at the same time. The deeper one looked into the cave, the deeper one's vision became. There were quite a few withered yellow leaves that had been blown by the wind at the entrance of the cave. Outside of the cave, there were also a few pitch-black bonfires that had already been blown away by the wind. It was likely that someone had once lived here. Xiaoyan smiled. From the looks of it, he might have to stay here for a period of time in the future. With a slight smile, Xiaoyan entered the cave in a flash. Sure enough, other than a stone bed and a few dim night pearls on the cave walls, there was nothing else in the cave. However, to Xiaoyan, this was already enough. When cultivating outside, having a place to settle down was already enough. It was too naive to hope that the predecessors would leave anything behind. After having a place to settle down, Xiaoyan immediately felt a wave of boredom in his heart. After reviewing the recent battles, Xiaoyan had a new understanding of his own strength. With the strength that Xiaoyan currently possessed, an 8-star half-martial emperor was no longer a threat to Xiaoyan. It was so much that if they were to fight, Xiaoyan was confident that he could defeat them in one move. As for a 9-star half-martial emperor, if he were to encounter someone with strength like Heavenly Eagle, Xiaoyan believed that if they were to fight one-on-one, Xiaoyan would definitely not be a match for them. Although he could use the sky extinction steps to temporarily delay, Xiaoyan's defeat was inevitable as time passed. Of course, if he were to encounter someone like the narwhal serpent who had just broken through to the initial 9-star half-martial emperor realm, Xiaoyan was confident that he would be able to fight evenly with them. Even if he was not a match for them, he would definitely not be in a sorry state. All in all, with all the battle strength that Xiaoyan currently possessed, Xiaoyan would at most be able to fight evenly with an initial 9-star half-martial emperor expert. As for expert stronger than that, it was a different story. Of course, even if that was the case, Xiaoyan was still dissatisfied with his own strength. After all, there were 3 9-star half-martial emperors in the depths of the Shilin mountain range.
Moreover, among the three of them, the Flame Lion and Xionggang were absolutely not weaker than Heavenly Eagle. As long as he was unable to defeat them, Xiao Yan would never be able to enter the depths of the Shilin mountain range, let alone pass through the entire Shilin mountain range. Another thing was the strange cold wind near the depths of the Shilin mountain range. The cold wind was so frightening that even Xiao Yan's heavenly flame was unable to suppress it. One could imagine that even if Heavenly Eagle and the other two did not obstruct Xiao Yan, it would still be absolutely impossible for Xiao Yan to pass through the Shilin mountain range with just the cold wind. Thinking of this, an indescribable pressure suddenly surged into Xiao Yan's heart. What he had to face now seemed to not be as simple as it seemed. Ugh! Xiao Yan sighed for some unknown reason. His body, which had just been lying on the stone bed, suddenly sat up like a carp. He violently shook his head and tossed the deep sleepiness out of his body. Both of Xiao Yan's hands formed the training seal as he sat down. A thought passed through his mind and the flame mantra chi method within his body began to circulate. Immediately, the natural energy swiftly gathered above Xiao Yan's head and agglomerated into a huge energy whirlpool. Waves of mottled natural energy swiftly gathered around Xiao Yan at this moment as though they were being attracted by something. They swiftly gathered towards Xiao Yan. After being refined by the heavenly flame within Xiao Yan's body, they flowed along his veins and circulated one round before merging into the vortex space within Xiao Yan's body. After Xiao Yan entered a crazy training state, the empty space beside Xiao Yan suddenly became distorted. Gu Yu's figure slowly appeared. Gu Yu faintly smiled as he watched Xiao Yan train with all his might. A gratified expression surfaced in his turbid old eyes. From Xiao Yan's actions, Gu Yu could tell that Xiao Yan no longer wanted to purely rely on his strength. Currently, Xiao Yan only wanted to use the normal training method to raise his own strength. It was better to rely on oneself than on others. Perhaps, this was the true thought in Xiao Yan's heart at this moment. In the blink of an eye, 2 months had passed as Xiao Yan repeatedly trained. During these 2 months, other than wildly training his Do Qi, Xiao Yan was only left with the soul-suppressing seal and the Sky Absolute Step. The training of Do Qi was long and arduous. The Sky Absolute Step also did not break through to the windswept stage. Hence, other than this, Xiao Yan could only place his thoughts on the soul-suppressing seal. After 2 months of repeated training, on this day, Xiao Yan finally welcomed the long-awaited day in his heart. Bang! As a muffled bang sound was emitted, the vortex within Xiao Yan's body, which was like a swelling balloon, suddenly relaxed. Xiao Yan only felt that his entire body had instantly become light at this moment. Even his spirit could not help but tremble. Hard work pays off. After frantically training, Xiao Yan's strength had finally broken through to the middle stage of the 5-star half-martial emperor realm. Even though this was somewhat forceful, as long as his strength had broken through, Xiao Yan would naturally not be too concerned about the rest. The path of training was crazy to begin with. Xiao Yan had merely done something even crazier. Unexpectedly, in merely 2 months, Xiao Yan had actually managed to break through to the middle stage of the 5-star half-martial emperor realm. To Xiao Yan, this was undoubtedly an enormous pleasant surprise. That was because this meant that his cultivation and strength would increase once again. His battle power would also increase along with it. At this moment, Xiao Yan was already imagining his appearance when he broke through to the 6-star half-martial emperor realm. After standing up, Xiao Yan's naked upper body slightly twisted. Immediately, a burst of bone-cracking sounds were heard. This caused Xiao Yan to involuntarily sigh in relief. Sensing the abundant Do Qi within his body, Xiao Yan lightly smiled. He took a step forward and planned to walk out of the cave. At the same time, outside the cave in the dense forest, a large group of people were rapidly rushing over. Chapter 442. Within the verdant mountain forest, Xiao Yan's 10 fingers were crossed as he supported the back of his head with his hands. With a lazy expression on his face, he was aimlessly walking forward. As of now, it was already very difficult for him to make any further progress with the sky extinction steps. If he wanted to break through to the wind elemental realm, he could only rely on luck. As for his cultivation, Xiao Yan had already completely consolidated his cultivation at the initial 5-star half-martial emperor realm. He was only a step away from the intermediate half-martial emperor realm. It was impossible for him to make a breakthrough in a short period of time. With nowhere to go and nowhere to retreat, Xiao Yan could only find a place to settle down for the time being. A long while later, Xiao Yan arrived in front of a waterfall. The rapid water flow was like a wild horse galloping as it whizzed down from the high cliff. After colliding with the protruding rocks on the cliff a couple of times, it violently smashed into a pool below, emitting a deafening loud roar. Surrounding the pool was a relatively spacious open space. Xiao Yan looked over and saw that there was actually a cave beside the waterfall. The entrance of the cave wasn't very big. It was only big enough for 4 people to enter at the same time. The deeper one looked into the cave, the deeper one's vision became.
At the entrance of the cave, there were quite a few withered yellow leaves that had been blown by the wind.
Outside of the cave, there were also a few pitch-black bonfires that had already been blown away by the wind. It seemed that someone had once lived here. Xiao Yan smiled. From the looks of it, he might have to live here for a period of time. With a faint smile, Xiao Yan entered the cave in a few flashes.
Sure enough, in the empty cave, other than a stone bed and a few dim night pearls left on the cave walls, there was nothing else.
However, to Xiao Yan, this was already enough. When cultivating outside, having a place to stay was already enough. It would be too naive to have extravagant hopes that the predecessors would leave anything behind. Now that he had a place to stay, Xiao Yan immediately felt bored in his heart. He roughly reviewed the recent battles where he had fought. Xiao Yan also had a new understanding of his own strength. Based on the strength Xiao Yan possessed right now, an 8-star quasi-emperor was no longer a threat to Xiao Yan.
It was even to the extent that if they were to truly fight, Xiao Yan was confident in being able to defeat him with a single move. As for a 9-star half-martial emperor, if he were to encounter someone with strength on par with Heavenly Eagle, Xiao Yan believed that if he were to fight them one-on-one, he would definitely not be a match for them. Even though he would be able to use the heaven-extinguishing steps to temporarily delay them, as time passed, Xiao Yan would inevitably be defeated. Of course, if he were to encounter someone like the Narwhal Serpent who had just broken through to the initial 9-star half-martial emperor realm, Xiao Yan was confident that he would be able to fight them equally. Even if he was not a match for them, he would absolutely not be too miserable. All in all, with all the battle strength that Xiao Yan possessed right now, Xiao Yan would at most be able to fight evenly with an initial 9-star half-martial emperor expert.
As for experts stronger than that, it was a different story. Of course, even if that was the case, Xiao Yan was still dissatisfied with his own strength. After all, there were 3 9-star half-martial emperors in the depths of the Shilin mountain range. Moreover, the Flame Lion and Xionggang were absolutely not weaker than Heavenly Eagle. As long as he was unable to defeat them, Xiao Yan would never be able to enter the depths of the Shilin mountain range, let alone pass through the entire Shilin mountain range. Another thing was the strange cold wind near the depths of the Shilin mountain range. The cold wind was so frightening that even Xiao Yan's heavenly flame was unable to suppress it. One could imagine that even if Heavenly Eagle and the other 2 did not obstruct Xiao Yan, it would still be absolutely impossible for Xiao Yan to pass through the Shilin mountain range with just the cold wind. Thinking of this, an indescribable pressure suddenly surged into Xiao Yan's heart. It seemed that what he was about to face right now was not as simple as it seemed. Ugh! Xiao Yan sighed for some unknown reason. His body, which had just been lying on the stone bed, suddenly sat up like a carp. He violently shook his head and tossed the deep sleepiness out of his body. Both of Xiao Yan's hands formed a training seal as he sat down. A thought passed through his mind and the flame mantra chi method within his body began to circulate. Immediately, the natural energy swiftly gathered above Xiao Yan's head and agglomerated into a huge energy whirlpool. Waves of mottled natural energy swiftly gathered around Xiao Yan at this moment as though they were being attracted by something. They swiftly gathered towards Xiao Yan. After being refined by the heavenly flame within Xiao Yan's body, they flowed along his veins and circulated one round before merging into the vortex space within Xiao Yan's body. After Xiao Yan entered a crazy training state, the empty space beside Xiao Yan's body suddenly became distorted. Gu Yu's figure slowly appeared. Gu Yu faintly smiled as he watched Xiao Yan train with all his might. A gratified expression surfaced in his turbid old eyes. From Xiao Yan's actions, Gu Yu could tell that Xiao Yan no longer wanted to purely rely on his strength. Currently, Xiao Yan only wanted to use the normal training method to raise his own strength. It was better to rely on oneself than on others. Perhaps, this was the true thought in Xiao Yan's heart at this moment. In the blink of an eye, 2 months had passed as Xiao Yan repeatedly trained. During these 2 months, other than wildly training his Do Qi, Xiao Yan was only left with the soul-suppressing seal and the Sky Absolute Step. The training of Do Qi was long and arduous. The Sky Absolute step also did not break through to the windswept stage. Hence, other than this, Xiao Yan could only place his thoughts on the soul-suppressing seal. After 2 months of repeated training, on this day, Xiao Yan finally welcomed the long-awaited day in his heart. Bang! Following a muffled bang sound, the vortex within Xiao Yan's body, which was swelling like a balloon, suddenly loosened. Xiao Yan felt that his entire body had instantly become light. Even his soul involuntarily trembled. Hard work pays off. After frantically training, Xiao Yan's strength had finally broken through to the middle stage of the 5-star half-martial emperor realm. Even though this was somewhat forceful, as long as his strength had broken through, Xiao Yan would naturally not be too concerned about the rest. The path of training was crazy to begin with. Xiao Yan had merely done something even crazier. Unexpectedly, in merely 2 months, Xiao Yan had actually managed to break through to the middle stage of the 5-star half-martial emperor realm. To Xiao Yan, this was undoubtedly an enormous pleasant surprise. That was because this meant that his cultivation and strength would increase once again. His battle power would also increase along with it. At this moment, Xiao Yan was already imagining his appearance when he broke through to the 6-star half-martial emperor realm. After standing up, Xiao Yan's naked upper body twisted slightly. Immediately, a burst of bone-cracking sounds were heard. This caused Xiao Yan to involuntarily sigh in relief. Sensing the abundant dou qi in his body, Xiao Yan lightly smiled. He took a step forward and planned to walk out of the cave. At the same time, outside the cave in the dense forest, a large group of people were rapidly rushing over.